Alright, yo. Feel like it's been a few days since I streamed the Old Republic. Let me put this plate away, but anyways, we're gonna do some smuggler action right now. I just made myself some salmon. It was pretty good actually. Let me put this plate away, but anyways, we're gonna do some smuggler action right now. I just made myself some salmon. It was pretty good actually. Let me put this plate away, but anyways, we're gonna do some. All right. Well, anyways, yeah. So if you're following my channel, you saw that I posted. I had originally recorded when I started this channel. Actually, the main focus was really supposed to be like reacting to shows, movies, anime, and the intention was like I'm an artistic person. That's like a hobby of mine. I like to produce art, and one of the fundamental aspects of that whole process is that I have to gather influences from all over the place, different kind of creative works from science, from philosophy, from my life, whatever, from nature when I go out and hike and camp and whatnot. And so I had like this backlog of different movies and stuff to go through, and TV shows. And so I figured I'll kill three birds with one stone. Number one, they're just enjoyable for me. I want to watch them. Number two is I get artistic inspiration from them, and number three, I can make React content out of it. So the whole gaming side of things, which is all that I have up on my channel right now at this point, was really just kind of supposed to be something where I kind of figured like if I have the channel, if I'm also going to be playing video games at times where I'm doing the same thing, I'm getting artistic influence, I'm just having, enjoying my own time, my own leisure time. And then number three, I could upload it as, content to kind of supplement the channel, right? Kind of for something, diversify my content, so to speak. I had recorded actually Rings of Power, House of the Dragon, and Dune Prophecy a few weeks back, really kind of before I got started, before I really started the channel. With the channel in mind, so I had recorded it, but I hadn't gotten around to at that point, uploading it and everything, or even having the channel started. But I figured, I really want to watch these shows. I'll just record it. Once I do kind of get the channel underway and I get like my equipment set up and everything, I get my process going, I have this content ready to go. I'll go ahead and, edit it, upload it, and all that good stuff. So again, I recorded it weeks ago, and I really haven't looked at it since then. It's just been sitting on my laptop. So I go back and look at it, and for whatever reason, I decided I'll upload the Dune Prophecy stuff first. I don't think there's really a big rhyme or reason to it. So I play back the Dune Prophecy videos, and I realized, like, oh shoot, the audio on there, it like didn't even record the audio. So I don't know what I was doing at that time period, right? Lesson learned though is that I got to double check all those things, make sure the audio levels are working and everything. I got to do that in this stream too, because I was playing Battlefront the other day, and I had a lot to say, but then I realized when I went back and watched it, like the audio from Battlefront was way louder than the microphone. I guess this is kind of my fault, but I kind of figured that redeem at any reputable trader for face value. Is what they said. I figured that like the PlayStation app, because it kind of takes over for you anyways. Like I figured it would properly mix all that audio information between like your microphone and the video game or whatever. Clearly it doesn't, right? Clearly Battlefront is very loud, right? I like that when I'm playing it, but when trying to play it back and you can't hear anything, it's not a good experience. So these are the sort of things that I gotta kind of work the kinks out of, unfortunately. So yeah, I mean I think the Dune Prophecy stuff is there's just not much there for me to use. I think half of the videos were without audio, so there's nothing for me to do there with that. And then Rings of Power. I think the Rings of Power stuff is okay, but I didn't even have like there's a whole process to, you know, basically getting the video stream of the source material. And of course, you got to be careful about when you upload it for copyright, content violation, or whatever. I kind of looked into that a little bit, but once I do upload, I'm gonna have to kind of play around with that. So I don't have the stream for that ready to go. I have the recording of myself. I don't have like the actual video of the show to kind of go along with that. So I figured, okay, the Rings of Power stuff, like the recording of myself looks okay, but you know, I'm not even ready to kind of edit it right now. So I'm just gonna put that by the wayside for the time being, kind of get back to it. I've been holding off on watching Andor for a long time, and I know everything on my channel right now is like Star Wars content. It's more of like a coincidence than anything else. I really didn't intend for it to be that way. It's when I started the channel, I didn't want to play any of the video games I had in like my list of video games I want to play because I was like, okay, I want to live stream those. So before I really started my channel, I started getting back into this game because I was like, okay, this is a game where I kind of already have some hours sunk into, you know, kind of itching to play something, and whether I stream it or not, it's not really a big deal. If I stream it and it's not like not super successful or I'm working out my kinks, like that's the appropriate, you know, thing to do that with. And then Battlefront 2 is really just a game that, I mean, no, you know, I am a Star Wars fan, don't get me wrong, but Battlefront 2 is a game that kind of started popping off lately, I think, when Andor kind of released. So I was like, okay, that's a game where I'm actually really good at that game. It's a game I could pick up really easily. So it's like maybe I can kind of try to dive into that and you know, get some views out of that, I guess. But I really don't want to be doing like all Star Wars content, obviously. So once I get Andor out of the way, I have a few other shows that I'm interested in watching. It does suck to me because I think Dune Prophecy and I also had House of the Dragon, but I'm not sure. Not sure if the audio on those are messed up or not. I didn't really check those, so if that's the case and all I have is Ring of Power, Rings of Power is good, don't get me wrong, but yeah, it's a missed opportunity on the rest of that stuff. I like how it says on here, as part of my mission, enter your personal starship. What do you think I'm doing right now, bro? I'm on my personal starship. Let me really quickly check the audio levels on the stream, make sure the stream looks okay. Smuggler, on the stream, make sure the stream looks okay. Whole process is that I have to gather, not, I'll kill 3 birds with 1 stone. Number 1, okay, yeah, that looks good. I think in the past I've kind of calibrated the Old Republic audio. The annoying thing is there must be like, I don't know, there's got to be like workarounds and stuff that people use or a certain process that people use. Because I have a pretty strong intuition that when I play a different game, I'm also going to have to adjust the audio settings for that game as well. Because I doubt that they're equalized across all these different games, right? They're probably all going to be different.
Hate to be nosy. There's some reason we're docking with a decrepit starship in the middle of nowhere.
Help a beautiful woman.
You're easily distracted by shiny things, aren't you?
Hey, who's saying about be shiny?
On your ship, but what am I supposed to do if you don't come back? Boarding another vessel in deep space is tricky. A million things can go wrong.
This chick acts like she can't do everything herself. Like, no offense or anything, but or it's not even offensive or anything like that. I think I've said before on this character, this chick, like, she knows, like, how am I in charge of the ship? She knows how to repair things. She has all these connections. She knows the plan, right? My character's just kind of going along for the ride. Anyways, boarding another vessel in deep space is tricky. A million things can go wrong. She's worried about me.
When you're this far out in space, careful is beside the point. You're at least planning to take some muscle, right? You do have a Wookiee?
Didn't know you cared so much, sweetheart.
I just don't feel like getting stranded in deep space.
How are you gonna get stranded? You don't know how to pilot a ship?
You don't need it.
I kind of find it doubtful she doesn't know how to pilot a ship on her own. Yeah, so that'll be annoying. The first game series really that I've been wanting to play that I've kind of held off on in order to stream it is Kingdom Hearts. That's gonna be a different can of worms because I have to set up the Elgato or whatever. because I have that game on my PS4. I think the nice thing about that potentially once I get that worked out is I could just play it from my couch. So it's kind of nice. I think it's a little bit of a nicer like setting, like layout. It looks a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. And then there's a thing about cameras. Like I'm into photography, and depending on your like focal length and the distance from the camera, it changes like the perception of people's faces and whatnot. My face looks really flat with like these smaller cameras with a um, focal length on these. I think this one's like 90. No. I'm sorry, it's not 90. I think it's I don't know what it is. It's a shorter distance than that. I think 90 is ideal, what you want, and then you want to be like 10 feet away from the subject, which in my apartment's probably not going to be a possibility. But eventually, I do want to upgrade my camera, upgrade my microphone setup, if I choose to pursue this further. But yeah, anyways, we'll have Andor. I am looking forward to that. It is just kind of annoying to me that everything's been Star Wars content. I don't want to give people the wrong impression. There's a few other shows that I want to get, a few animes I want to get under my belt. There's The Handmaid's Tale. I don't know how many seasons that is. Let me look it up real fast. I'm curious. Handmaid's Tale. Oh my God, they're in season 6. Jesus Christ. I wasn't anticipating that. That's okay though. I mean, we'll take it a season at a time, right? The other is The Wire, because I kind of feel like this is an important show, like culturally, that I just never got around to seeing. So we'll do that at some point. I'm really not in the mood for it right now, but eventually we'll get around to it. There's a few animes as well. Monster is one of them. Oh my god. Monster anime. I don't know if I've ever seen Psycho Pass season 2 and 3, so I might do that because Psycho Pass season 1 is like one of my favorite anime shows of all time. Then we have Cyberpunk. I kind of sort of have seen this show. I had it playing in the background while I was doing other stuff at one point, and I'm really genuinely not exaggerating when I say I have no idea what was going on in the show because I was not paying attention at all. All I know is I remember these characters, like I remember what they look like, and I don't really know anything else about it. So it really would be like me watching it for the first time. I don't remember anything about the show. I really wasn't paying attention at all. So I have some different shows to watch. What's another kind of like more adult themed show? Because I don't want people to think, oh, my shit is just like sci-fi and fantasy stuff. Obviously, Handmaid's Tale's not in that realm. The Maid looked kind of interesting. I wanted to watch that as well. I saw it on Netflix a while ago. And then The Queen's Gambit as well. That seemed like it was kind of cool a little bit. You know, I've played some chess in my time. I used to be part of a chess club, so might be kind of interesting. I saw like the first episode. It looked kind of interesting, but I just wasn't in the headspace for it at the time. What else? I have to finish The Boys. I think I'm on season 3. Is it this one? I don't know. It kind of feels like the show's starting to fall into filler territory where they don't want to end it, so they're just kind of like padding it out. It's like, to me, it's like they have the Serum V or whatever. Why haven't they killed Homelander already? Like, what the hell? What are they all lollygagging for? And on that point, why isn't Homelander trying to kill anyone yet? Doesn't make any sense to me. Or why doesn't he try to kill the crew, right? The main crew. That doesn't make any sense to me. It seems like it's just drama to pad out the time. I have a few videos to react to. I don't know how I came across this video of this dude, Kentucky Ballistics, with a T-Rex head. So it's kind of cool. He got like a like some dude who makes what would you call him? Like what are they called? There's a term for it when you make like a ballistic dummy, yeah, of a T-Rex. So it's supposed to be like fairly, I would guess, like fairly realistic rendition of or model of a T-Rex. See what kind of bullets will penetrate that. I'm a very liberal guy, but I do support gun rights. I support gun regulation too at the same time. I'm a moderate on that front, but I've owned guns. My family owns guns. I don't have anything wrong with them. You know, I like to go shooting. I like to own more guns. Not like a whole collection or anything, but you know, like maybe 2 handguns and a rifle or something like that. I really want to get like a Marlin. That'd be badass, like the lever action guy. I think they're kind of sexy too. Check this out. Look at Marlin 3 Threes. Isn't that's not? Is it 336? It is. like this. What do you guys think, by the way? Should we do the wood on black or should we do the wood on silver? I kind of like the silver, honestly. It's more of like a what do you call this wood style? Like a beech wood kind of color. I think I fill that one a lot. But yeah, I'm kind of interested to see like what guns actually penetrate a T-Rex skull. Should be pretty cool. I don't know much about this guy. I mean, sometimes with the gun nut community, a lot of them can be far right. I really don't appreciate that. But there was a guy. Does he still have a channel actually? Hickok 45. I liked him because he seemed like he wasn't like he seemed like he was a pretty decent guy. Like he wasn't weird and oh, he still has a channel. Cool. I gotta follow this guy.
Hickok 45. Is that a pretty sight?
Yeah, it is actually. You know what? We'll subscribe, bro. Might watch some of these gun reviews at some point. All right. Well, let's check out this video and play
what
some
you would do
Star
if you
Wars.
encountered a real-life T-Rex? Well, today
Real-life
we're gonna find
T-Rex?
out. This thing is over 6 foot long and weighs.
Oh, you know what? I guess the issue with this is I can't really do both at the same time. I gotta watch. Here, let's just watch this real quick. I'm
Over
kind of curious.
600 pounds and is a real-life replica of a Tyrannosaurus Rex. And today we're gonna shoot it with the world's most powerful guns.
Oh, here, this is a good opportunity to see if the YouTube mix is good. Here, this is a good opportunity to see if the. Here, let's just watch this real quick. I'm kind of curious.
600 pounds and is a real.
Okay, good. I think I have the volume calibrated properly.
500 Magnum Desert Eagle, FOS 12 gauge, A square.
Is he trying all those out? So you got a Desert Eagle, right? It's my understanding that, well, no, I guess it's always been kind of an exaggeration that the Desert Eagle is like the most powerful handgun because you have some, I don't know what their names are. I've seen them in the past where you got largest caliber handgun. Let's see. Jeez, look at this chunky boy. Why do I feel like the recoil on this would be insane? Okay, number one, you have a big cartridge, right? You're dealing with a large cartridge there. But then on top of that, the bore axis. So the bore axis would be like the distance from where the moment arm's going to be. It's basically right here, the pivot point of your wrist, would be my understanding. Although I guess technically it would be, what would it be? Would it be the fingers? Would it be the wrist? But if you pretend that that all of those are like rigid and not moving and not, you know, susceptible to deflection or anything like that, then we'll just call it the wrist. The wrist is where you're probably going to get most of the rotation if everything else is being held static, right? So from the wrist right here up to where the bullet is being fired out at. So it seems like it has a pretty wide or pretty long bore axis compared to some modern handguns. Then you have a large cartridge. The recoil on that must be intense. Does the barrel length, how does barrel length affect recoil? I'm curious about this. How does I feel like a shorter barrel has more recoil. Length affect recoil. So longer barrels generally result in slightly reduced felt recoil compared to shorter barrels of the same caliber. This is primarily due to the increased weight inertia of the longer barrel, which absorbs more of the recoil energy. Also tend to produce higher muzzle velocities. The added weight helps to counteract the increased force, leading to a more manageable recoil experience. I also wonder too, you know, by the way, for those of you that don't know, I have a mechanical engineering background. I'm a college dropout, but this is all terrible and it's a long story that I don't want to get into, but I got all the way up to the end. I did like my senior capstone design and everything, so I've basically taken all the classes. I was just a terrible student, didn't really do my homework. So I'd also imagine too, if you get a longer barrel, how would I put this? Something to do with basically, sometimes when I have like a physics or math question, I'll test it by testing the extremes. I don't know if there's a term for this in mathematics, but this is like a strategy. So if I had a handgun with no barrel length versus a handgun with like an infinite barrel length, if I shoot it down a barrel that has infinite length, yes, the weight is a factor, I guess kind of what I'm thinking about is where where the energy, you know, where it exits the barrel. You know, how's that affecting where the energy, where like your vectors of the energy are being directed at? Because I feel like once you actually exit the barrel, that energy is going to be some of it's going to go off in all kinds of directions, right? Which is going to cause rotations in different directions. Versus if you have a longer barrel length, it's as it's traveling down that barrel length, that energy is being directed pretty much down the barrel still, right? As the reaction to it. So increased mass. Still the added weight of the longer barrel. So you okay. All right. Anyways, so you have this guy. This looks certainly bigger than a Desert Eagle's caliber. Because what is a Desert Eagle anyways? Desert Eagle caliber. Oh, point 50 Action Express. 0.50 AE. So I guess these would be your different calibers. So 44, and then you have a 500 Smith & Wesson. 44 Magnum. Okay. I know your Taurus tracker will go up to 44 mag on these. This is a Raging Judge, but this is by that same company, Taurus, I believe, right? I don't think you guys can hear this, unfortunately. I got like some neighbor bumping their music. It's too loud. I don't care if you're bumping or do whatever the fuck you want to do, but when you got it to the point where everyone around you can fucking hear it, like, that shit's annoying. You know what I mean? Like, have some respect for your neighbors. I mean, when you start getting to this point, like, can we even call this a handgun at this point? I feel like you would hold this thing underneath the barrel with the other hand. I feel like at that point it's like a submachine. Not a submachine gun, but like I don't know, a sub rifle. I don't know. Okay, anyways.
5.77 Tyrannosaur, 700 BMG, a 4-bore rifle, 950 JDJ.
4-bore, what does that mean? I don't even know what these terms mean, to be honest with you. One thing that I really dislike about the gun community is they are incredibly fucking pretentious about it. You know, you want to talk about your coastal elites being pretentious and shit, go to like the gun community, and those motherfuckers, like, if you're brand new and you don't know your shit, they get like a ego narcissistic, like, gatekeepy mentality around it. I've heard some people say that's because, you know, you don't want, you know, because guns and firearms are so serious, you don't want people that don't take it seriously coming in. That's one thing, right? You know, if you're like, you know, make sure that people, respect the gun, respect firearms, safety, and all that good stuff. That's one thing. But there are people that just for no reason in the gun community, I think even Hitcock 45 had talked about this before, who just kind of act like jerks, like jackoffs. Like it's like the whole gun thing is their personality, and it's where they derive like their personal identity and sense of self-worth from. And so they like lord it over everybody else who isn't like as crazy into guns as them. It's actually kind of fucking pathetic too, to be honest with you. Okay, but anyways, a 4-bore is a type of large historically used for hunting large. It's characterized by exceptionally large bore diameter. So when they say 4-bore, because I have to imagine there's probably what, 3-bore, 2-bore, 1-bore. Let me see, 3-bore rifle. Okay, 3 inches. So does that mean 4-bore tends to be 4 inches in diameter? Jesus, 6-bore. The rifle that dude was holding was a 4-bore. This one's 6 gauge. When they talk 6 gauge, are they only referring to like shotgun shells? They talk like their actual rifle rounds that are like 6-bore. Hold on, I gotta see this 6-bore round. Jesus Christ. I guess they do. Whoa, wait, no, because they were saying They're saying the 3 bore is a 3-inch diameter? Well, this isn't the same thing. This isn't called 3 bore, right? Is black power is larger than 2 bore? 2 bore is obsolete fire. 2 bore generally fires spherical bullets or slugs. The nominal bore is 1.326 inches, so it's not 2 inches. Where does the 2 come from? Despite the popular caliber in modern gun lore, there's no evidence to it, as named, was actually used as a terrestrial shoulder-fired firearm. The tomb 2 bore indicating his half-pound shell was a longer projectile. However, this firearm Baby describes actually close to 3 bore. Why is a 3 bore called 3? In firearm terminology, particularly shotguns, bore or gauge refers to. So are bore and gauge used interchangeably? Obviously, I've heard gauge all the time. But it's not a direct measurement in inches or millimeters. This is one of those stupid fucking like American, British, imperial things where you do something like you say, oh, it's a 2x4, and 2x4 isn't even actually 2 inches. 2x4 dimensions, right? A 2x4. So yeah, see, I mean, they say it's 2x4 inches, but in reality, they're like 1.5 by 3.5 inches. So that kind of shit annoys me. The number associated with a bore, like 3 or 12 gauge, is determined by historical convention dating back to the time of muzzle-loading muskets and cannons. Okay, so these are not going to correspond to like any actual dimensions, but it does. My understanding here is going to be that is it as you go up or as you go down in gauge size that the rounds are going to get larger. So bore sizes, caliber. Totally spelled that wrong. So 10 gauge is larger diameter than 12. Okay, that's. Wait, what? Yeah. Okay, that's how I'm used to gauge sizes working. I don't know why they do it that way. I think it's fucking stupid. But it is what it is. They do that in nursing too. Like they have different gauge needles, and the larger gauge is actually a smaller size. That's annoying. So 3 gauge, 3 bore must be fucking massive. Jesus Christ. Alright, anyways, went down a huge tangent with that one.
It's time to ride the lightning. Oh!
Oh man, I gotta be afraid of the recoil on that too. I do wonder, okay, so my impulse from what I understand about physics and everything, because you might think like, like if someone was behind the person holding their shoulder in place, you fire a large caliber rifle, the recoil on that, I think that's a bad thing, right? Because if you're just holding that shoulder statically in place, your shoulder's absorbing all of that kinetic energy, rather than some of that kinetic energy going into rotating your shoulder. The flip side of that, of course, I guess would be that if you're like that jerking motion of rotate, you might, damage maybe your joints or something by jerking it too much. So I guess it's a trade-off. Really, it's always kind of a question in failure or stress and strain of like basically what's going to give first, right? Is it going to damage your tissue first? Or is it going to damage your joints first? Or, what is it going to be?
What's up, everybody? My name is Scott, and you're watching Kentucky Ballistics. And there's something I have always wondered. Could I actually defeat a real-life Tyrannosaurus Rex?
I always think it's stupid when people say shit like, oh, if dinosaurs were around, like, we'd all be dead. And, like, are you fucking stupid? I think dinosaurs, like, if we could take down big game in Africa, right, they don't really pose an issue to us. What is a dinosaur going to do when we show up with, like, a minigun? Or show up with a large caliber rifle? Or show up with explosives? Or show up with a tank, right? They're not going to do shit.
Today,
so stupid.
We're going to find out. This behemoth is the actual size.
Now, you strap some Gatling guns on the T-Rex, though. That's a different story. Now you're playing Zoids. I've been itching to play Zoids lately. There's this old Zoids game called Zoids Battle Legends for the GameCube. I played the shit out of that game back in the day. I've been wanting to play it. It's really cool though, cause like, granted, it's not gonna be like the best combat in the world, but the combat was still actually pretty fun. You could like fully customize your Zoid. You can like change the paint job. You can like attach on different weapons and stuff like that. Yeah, like a bunch of different Zoids that you can unlock. And then, oh, look at this intro, by the way. Intro is badass. Check this out. Check this shit out. I've been trying to figure out if I can get like an emulator to play this game. Hell yeah. Sometimes I have to take a step back and just kind of think to myself, like, humans, boys in particular, we took animals and we decided it'd be really cool to strap a bunch of guns and armor on make robotic animals with guns and fucking fan blades on their fucking bodies, right? Look at it. They got rifles coming out of their ass. Look at this shit. Hell yeah. Got the Liger, got the Berserk Fury. Got this dude. Yeah, this dude that they showed 2 times already. Yeah. Let's skip that for a little bit. Hey, look at this shit. You'd mod out your shit. Hold on, are they gonna show you? Look at it. Attach for different weapons. You have different weapon attachment points. And by the way, like, there's some games that get like too anal. If you try to play like Armored Core, I know competitively it's like a really like intense game, but like, it's just too much, you know. Sometimes some games are like trying to do too much. I felt that way with Legend of Zelda, whatever the last one was called, the Breath of the Wild sequel. It was like, okay, cool. I really like that they expanded the size of the map and they expanded the story and the lore and everything. But I feel like that whole like mechanic where you're building shit really detracted from the game. This is a game where, like, right here, like, what do you want in a Zoids game? You want all the different Zoids. You want the ability to customize that. What does that mean? You want to change the paint jobs. You want to attach different weapons, and maybe you want to add a few parts that like modify your stats. That's it. You don't need to do anything more than that. You do more than that, you're like going way over the fucking line. You don't need to be like Armored Core, where you have like billion different stats that you're trying to maximize and shit, right? I mean, I guess it works for some people, right? It was annoying for me. And they don't even explain it well. Like, what do all these freaking stats mean? This is a FromSoft game. This is the kind of aids that FromSoft is known for nowadays. Same thing with, what do you call it? The devil or demon, whatever, demon souls bullshit. I can't get into those games for a very similar reason. Just like, it's just not fun. You know, it's one of those like, oh, get good. And it's like, well, I would get good if I had fun, but like, it's just kind of grindy and boring to me. But look at this, you got AP, anti-connected defense, anti-energy defense, anti-explosive. I mean, I guess that's self-explanatory. Attitude. What the fuck is attitude stability? Attitude recovery. What the fuck does that mean? Target tracking. Okay, straightforward. What is QB speed? What is QB consumption? What is QB reload time? What is EN capacity? What is EN supply efficiency? What is EN recharge? I assume that's energy. What does QB mean? But like, how does energy affect like these things and every total weight? I feel like there was actually more than this, right? Look at QB thrust, QB consumption, right? Nah, I swear there's more than this. Now I look like an asshole, right? I think I played this one. I played this version of the game. Like, what is this, Armored Core 5? Oh, 4 answer. Yeah, I played this one. Oh my god. Don't remind me. Yeah, I don't know. Just too much. This is very straightforward. Okay. That's a good game. Get me in the combat. Get me going. Look at this shit. It's badass, and you have like different strategies. You could be like a sniper. You could be like a heavy artillery dude. You could be like a fast dude. Come by and like slash them with your guns.
I'm gonna hit it. Yep, give up.
Yeah. Got like melee moves. Like this would be fun too as like multiplayer. It really would be. Right? I try to look at some of the newer Zoids games and they look like ass by comparison. Like they didn't look like they had as many Zoids. It looked like it was more catered to toddlers and shit. So.
Of an adult Tyrannosaurus Rex. It's over 6 foot long and this thing weighs over 600 pounds. Today I have several calibers to shoot this thing with. We're going to start out small and then work our way up to the world's most powerful rifles and see what it would take to actually take down this prehistoric beast. But before we do, I want to introduce you to somebody. This is Chris with Ballistic Dummy Lab. Chris is the creator behind all the cool stuff we shoot on this channel, whether it be gremlins, zombies, vampires, werewolves.
So I saw like the intro to this video already, and then I decided to stop because I wanted to react to it on stream. I saw this part, so I wanted to slow it down because this is actually cool. Like this dude made this model. I feel like it's worth kind of giving his credit for it.
A T-Rex.
That's quite a feat.
And look, you can see in it, right? It looks like it has an anatomically correct like skull, right? I wonder if they got like the density to be similar to the density of a T-Rex skull. Right, I'm imagining maybe. I don't know if there's any scientific data on like what the density of its facial tissue would be. But I wonder if they simulated that too.
It's been a year in the making.
About that, yeah. From design.
What's crazy
We've
too
been out here.
He said that this head weighs 600 pounds. I'm actually kind of curious. He's going to say that in a minute, but I wonder if T-Rex skulls actually weighed that much. That would mean that they did a really good job simulating T-Rex skull weight. 200 pounds. Okay, so that's interesting. So I wonder if this is going to be. Oh wait, when they say skull, are they saying just with the bones, or are they saying bones and? Okay, another estimate for a fully fleshed out T-Rex head is more than, jeez, just for the head, over 1,000 pounds. Fully fleshed out T-Rex head is more than, huh. The estimate is based on skull being solid bone and would be heavier if it weren't for air pockets and other features that reduce weight. Well, I mean, doesn't bone have air pockets? Do bones have air pockets? I mean, some of them do, right? Yeah, some bones do, like birds, that was the very first thing that came to mind. But I guess maybe a dinosaur like this. Yeah, I guess that would make sense. Like dinosaurs would probably have higher density bones. You probably have smaller air pockets if you even have air pockets there. The most recent is, oh, that's for the full size. 30 bones, okay, I don't know. Gave the length of fossils and the weight as 2005, well, that'd be for the skull. All right, that's a rabbit hole I don't have time to go down.
For several hours today, you had to hand deliver this thing. I cannot imagine what goes into making something this big, but you have filmed the process, right, and maybe putting a video up on your channel?
Yeah, I'll do a BTS on YouTube and maybe some short clips on Instagram.
Awesome. I just want to tell you,
interesting. I wonder what that guy's channel is, because honestly, he might have some pretty cool content himself. Oh, what the fuck is that? That's not what I was looking for. Kentucky Ballistics Breakdown. Kentucky Customs. Is it this? No, that's a different, okay. Kentucky Customs, is that what it is? No. Oh, shit, this guy does a lot of stuff. What the hell? Jesus Christ, what an impressive guy. He's got like a pretty successful channel on firearms. I'm sure he knows his firearm shit pretty well. Seems like he probably knows his ballistics decently well. And it looks like he does a lot of like vehicle modification as well too. I wonder if this guy has an engineering background. T-Rex versus T-Rex rifle. Well, where does this dude's, where do I find out about this dude's thingamabobber? Pepperbox TV SDI.
All the cool stuff you do for
what was the name?
Instagram.
Awesome channel.
Yeah, I'll do a BTS on.
You have filmed the imagine.
Yeah.
Has been made a T-Rex. Zombies. Creator behind somebody. This is Chris with Ballistic Dummy Lab. Chris.
Ballistic Dummy Lab. That's really cool. You know, that'd be interesting. Ballistic Dummy Lab. You know, I wonder what they like. I feel like you can glean a lot about an anatomy from something like this. I'll subscribe to it for now. I don't know if they'll have a lot of content I'm interested in, but you know, to simulate the ballistics of a human being, there's probably a lot you have to consider in terms of like actual human anatomy. Does he have a video on this T-Rex thing? Latest. I want to see the popular ones maybe. Well, when was this T-Rex one put out? June 30th. Maybe they don't have the video up yet. I can imagine that being the case. I mean, there's probably a lot of content they probably made for. Oh yeah, some of these are for like years ago. Oh, from 1 year ago. Okay, he doesn't have anything recent up right now.
Chris?
It's on Instagram.
Awesome. I just want to tell you.
Will help me out with this stuff and give a shout out to them. Without them, this stuff wouldn't be possible.
Well, you and your team do a wonderful job, and I greatly appreciate it. And all the viewers appreciate it, because if it wasn't for y'all, we wouldn't have cool videos like this.
I appreciate the opportunity, man.
Well, you may be wondering why we're under a canopy. It is because it is the hottest day of the year so far, and I don't want this guy to melt. So we're going to keep the canopy over him for a little while, and then we'll probably move the canopy back once we start shooting him with really big things. I'm excited, so let's get started. So first, we're going to use something you definitely would not want to be caught with when encountering a T-Rex, and that is a 22 long rifle. This is a Ruger LCR, and it's chambered at 22 long rifle. This is a 40 grain bullet, and I'm going to try to take out a 600.
I know 22 isn't the same as 22 LR, but I was actually surprised. I think this is actually true. My buddy, he's in law enforcement. He told me that 22 rounds are actually more dangerous than 9mm, and I think he said the reason is because they tend to tumble more in the body. They do more damage. 22 more dangerous. No, is generally considered more dangerous. Okay, never mind. That it has a larger bullet, higher velocity, more kinetic energy, and greater potential for tissue damage and penetration. I always thought it would be has more energy and does more trauma, all other things being equal, but shot placement is everything in terminal. Okay, I don't know, whatever.
100-pound T-Rex head. Okay, let's go right for the nose.
So, but here's the thing. I mean, obviously the skull itself, the bone is probably going to be pretty dense, right? But the question I have is, do they simulate as well what the density of the tissue would be like? Or the skin even. This doesn't seem to have like a separate layer of skin, right? Because I feel like the skin is going to play a big role. You know, if you try to shoot a crocodile with a 22, is it even going to penetrate their skin?
Yeah, I think he's just probably slightly irritated. He probably didn't even feel that. Now, I'm going to be completely honest. I can't even tell if I hit him. If I did hit him, it didn't do anything. And that proves my point. You need something a little bit bigger than 22. Okay, well, let's step it up to something that's a little bit bigger and the most common pistol caliber in the United States, 9mm. This is a Ruger RXM 9mm, and I'm going to be loaded up with some 124 grain Hydra-Shock. All right, going for the snout again. Okay, I definitely hit it that time, but again, I don't think he cares.
That looks like it penetrated, right? Yeah, it doesn't really look like it went far, but...
Here we go. Get right there, and I can tell it went up into his nose a little bit. And I'm guessing it just would have caused some mild sneezing, probably nothing more. 9mm did absolutely nothing, but you know what I think will do something? The Lord's caliber, 45 ACP, but not just one. We have two 45 ACPs. This is my Dueler, and this is a double barrel 1911, and I'm loaded up
I have
with
never
2 rounds
seen that. Is that like
45
a custom
ACP critical
mod?
Defense.
What the fuck
Okay,
is that?
Mr.
Is so
T-Rex,
wild.
2 rounds coming at ya. Oh, I done knocked his front tooth out.
Let's see. Okay. I don't know. I don't feel like these ballistics would be accurate though, because if they're not simulating the skin or the density of the tissue, I don't know that this matters. That's what I want to know about the ballistics of this model.
Ah, good as new. 45
It does look like
ACP
the,
did not do much to the T-Rex,
looks
so
like
we're
the
going to
bullets
step it up
bounced out.
to
No.
10 millimeter. This is
That's what
a
I
beautiful
have a 10
Nighthawk custom 10 millimeter,
Glock
and this
20
thing is
SF.
loaded up with some 200 grain jacketed hollow points. Okay, here we go.
There we go.
Woo! Looks like I hit somewhere in here. And again, we're not making it very far into this thing. I'm definitely thinking that if I encountered a T-Rex and all I had was a handgun, I might as well just run. So now it's time to step it up to more Magnum pistol calibers. Up next is going to be a 44 Magnum. This is a Taurus 44 Magnum, and I'll be loaded up with something real special. This is a 44 Magnum Black Talon. There we go. Gonna go right down the snoot again.
So I think a bullet like that, Black Talon bullet, you see like the little cuts on the tip. I think that's meant to spread out when it enters the body. Yeah, like this. Yeah. Right. Which I believe the point of that is to cause internal damage. But I wonder if that affects, like, I wonder if it travels less far because you're encountering more surface area resistance.
Okay, I would say you felt that one.
What is the green? Oh, did they simulate, like, blood or something? Huh.
Yikes!
Or does whatever material that they use, does it have, like, a chemical reaction
Black
where it
Talon was not
changes?
playing around, was it? We hit him right here. I don't know how deep.
It changes.
We made it in. It does still kind of look like a flesh wound, but yeah, he definitely would not like that. Still don't think it would take him out there. Oh my gosh! I don't normally film under a canopy. That's pretty brutal. Maybe we should do this more often.
Interesting. I really want to know a lot
damage,
about
so I'm very
this,
excited to see what we can do with this next caliber. We have a Desert Eagle, actually a custom Kentucky Ballistics Desert Eagle. And as you can see on this side, it actually says man versus T-Rex. It's almost like it was made just for this video. And I'm going to be loaded up with some 58E 300 grain jacketed hollow points. Okay, here we go. Oh, gonna knock his teeth out again.
Jeez.
So I hit somewhere in here, but we did not have as much of a reaction as we did with the 44 Magnum. I think that's because the 44 Magnum kind of scraped upward and was not as deep into the T-Rex. But through here, it's not really doing a lot to him. There's a lot of meat here. I wonder what T-Rex tastes like. I could try it. So up next, we are going to step it up to the Mac Daddy of production handguns. That is the 500 Magnum. And I have a special one. This is Demolition Ranch's 500 Magnum that he lost to me in an arm wrestling contest. It is gold.
All right.
Now let's use this T-Rex. Oh, and we're using 350 grain Underwood jacketed hollow points. All right, here we go.
Ooh, man, that recoil does look intense. Ooh.
See how he handled that recoil here. I'm going to say classic part of this movie.
Okay.
Some of the best defense for a dinosaur
What do we
is
have?
the SPA's 12 gauge. So we have to at least take one shot at this T-Rex with this, and I'll be loaded up with some 2 3/4 inch double-aught buck. That is the best sound in the entire world.
The thing about shotguns are, you would think, right? I think a lot of people would think, like from movies and stuff, like, oh yeah, use a shotgun against like a bear or something. Generally speaking, with like buckshot, shotgun, buckshot, what you're getting is the energy gets dissipated very quickly because you're not getting it concentrated in like a single bullet. You're getting it dissipated into all these little shells. Now, on a human body, that's going to do damage, right, in a wide area. But on like something like a bear or something, it may not penetrate very deep. Now, alternatively, you do have shotgun shells that are shotgun slugs, where it's supposed to be. I think slugs are solid, no? Yeah, so you're pushing out something like this. So if you're going to use it on a T-Rex, you probably want something like that. I don't know what he's using here. When he says 12 gauge, I don't know what that means necessarily.
Oh no. You know what'll fix that? Told you.
Yeah, it's probably doing very minimal anything. It's probably even less than like your higher caliber pistol rounds that he's used.
Still looking okay. I think I hit a little to the right. Got nicked through here. But again, a T-Rex with no nose and a few bullet holes in him, I think he's still probably mobile and lethal. If you're enjoying this video and you want to see more awesome content like
All right.
405 grain soft point.
Okay. Is that a Marlin? Nice.
Oh! Shot him right in the eyeball.
Ooh, I feel like you could see that cavity as it was passing through.
We hit right there.
Cavitation. I feel like that would actually penetrate pretty good.
I don't.
If you get a well-placed shot, I feel like you can get that one into the brain. Like from where he shot right there, I don't know. I guess I don't know the internals of a T-Rex skull, but it almost looks like that cavity would lead into the brain. Surprisingly, T-Rexes have kind of a small brain, brain size. Look at this. Their brain, I shouldn't say that because this isn't even to scale. But proportionally, they have a pretty small brain.
I don't see an exit hole. If it did come out the other side, no, it's right here. I'm pretty sure it's right here at the very back. Must have slipped through his cheek and then stopped before exiting. I still can't believe it didn't make it all the way through it though. We did not hit any bone or anything like that, and it still did not make it through. So I am starting to determine that safari rifles are probably the only answer for a Tyrannosaurus Rex. But before we move on to some really big boys, let's use one last common rifle caliber. This is 223, and
I've never seen like an AR platform that looks like that. I know it looks crazier than it is. All it is just has a very long barrel. But having the barrel be like silver like that, it looks very striking.
I think we need a little bit of extra velocity. So I have a 40-inch barrel, have a 20-round mag, and I'm loaded up with one round 223 VMAX. All right, here we go.
223. I should be, but I'm not super familiar. 223 versus, what is it, 30-06? I think 30-06 is your standard AR round. Or actually, what is it? What do ARs chamber? AR-15 caliber. I think it's, yeah, I was going to say. Oh no, it is 223. Why did I think it was 30-06? Oh, 30-06 is what you're going to have in like your common, like bolt action rifle, right? Bolt action popular caliber. Bro, what are you doing? Yeah, 30-06. So AR-15s, I do know this part because I know that this is the standard NATO round, 5.56. But civilians, when they use them as hunting rifles, I didn't know what they were using, so it's 223. Okay, that's a big cavity. You see that?
So it looks like that 223 round expanded immediately, took a pretty big chunk out of our T-Rex.
I guess another thing about it, the issue with ballistics, you'll never get it 100% accurate. I mean, obviously you're not going to, but you're never going to get that close because the issue is that I have to imagine human tissue, or just tissue in general. Where is muscle tissue most dense? You're probably going to have different densities across. These indicate that the plantaris muscle generally exhibits the highest muscle density in there's this small muscle located in the calf. Yeah, you're probably gonna have different density of muscle, and you have different, you know, like grain, right? Because something in engineering, you have something called what is it? Is it isotropic? Isotropic. There's a term for when the material properties are different in different directions. So like steel, for example, really good in tension. Yeah, really good in tension, right? Not so good in compression. And it's not as good in like shear, right? So along its like longitudinal axis, usually it's not going to handle the forces as well. Whoa. So having physical, which are the same value when measured in different. Okay, isotropic is when it's all the same. So what is it? Anisotropic? Anisotropic. Having physical properties that are of different value in different directions. Is animal. There's two things. Animal tissue is a compound, and it's also probably going to be anisotropic. Anisotropic. Like I already know before even Googling, the answer is going to be yes. Yeah, it's generally anisotropic, meaning its properties vary depending on the direction of measurement. Yeah. So I got to imagine that this ballistic gel is probably going to be isotropic.
not doing much
I couldn't imagine the amount of money that it would take to build a model that had like anisotropic
to it.
characteristics
So we're
or
going to go
like
ahead and
different
step it up to
densities
some of the
across
most
different
powerful
regions.
rifles in the entire world. And if there actually were dinosaurs on this earth, I would have this one. This is an A-square 5.77 Tyrannosaur. There was only 24 of these rifles ever made. 12 went to Africa and 12 stayed in the United States.
Jeez.
And we are going to shoot the T-Rex with one. This is a 750 grain A-square dead tough bullet. And I'm going to send it.
What is it called? It's called a 700 grain A-square? What is it called? 700 grain A-square? What does he mean when he says A-square? 700 grain A-square could refer to a few different contexts. Snapdragon grit, crochet farms. I don't know what he means when he says A-square.
Right at Mr. T-Rex. It's time to see if this rifle really holds up to its name.
Holy
Yep.
sh!
I'd say that a Tyrannosaur would not want to be shot with a Tyrannosaur.
Is that right? Holy shit! You got a huge cavitation, and it comes out the other end. So what is this? This is called the Tyrannosaur rifle. 5.57 Tyrannosaur. Oh, A-square is the company. So I'm imagining here when he says the bullet caliber was whatever 700 grain A-square, so the cartridge is probably proprietary. There's probably no other rifle that fires that round. Rifle cartridge valves A-square request for which you guys rifle cartridge. Oh no. That's the name of the cartridge. It's actually called 5.77 T-Rex. This is 7 T-Rex. Jesus fucking Christ. Jesus titty fucking Christ. JDJ, what the fuck is this? 950 JDJ. He probably uses it in this. Oh, that's the last one. Okay, holy shit. I guess you probably can't just shoulder. When you say shoulder fire, I think that means you're standing, right? God damn. The material for the bone actually kind of looks like what's not carbon fiber. There's another fiber that they use like in ship holes and stuff like that. Fiber, god damn it, what is it called? It's called what are camper shells made of? Fiberglass. There we go. Yeah, this looks like it's made of fiberglass, which also makes me think, like, is this even simulating anything close to the density of actual T-Rex bone?
Mr. T-Rex turned into a confetti popper. We hit him. This is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, bolt-action rifle for hunting that I have in my collection. This is a 700 BMG, and as you can see, this thing is an absolute behemoth. This case that takes a 70 caliber 1,000 grain bullet. Oh! This is gonna hurt me as much as it hurts you, Mr. T-Rex. Oh! 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 I think that just kind of zipped right through him. My head hurts.
Yeah, it did. Interesting. It doesn't really seem to get like you got as much cavitation. Is that what the term is? I think when you get the expansion, or is it just called expansion?
Would probably be a pretty good option for T-Rex defense. I hit him right here, and as you
But
can see, that's a pretty
you probably
big
do
hole.
have better penetration,
Actually,
right?
crazy.
Because I wonder,
That is a
I
big
feel like
hole.
there's probably a correlation between whether you're getting expansion or penetration when it comes to bullets. I feel like there's got to be a trade-off there because some of the energy is being used to expand the material versus penetrate through.
And we went right through. You can see here we have some green, and I'm not really sure, but we came up the back somewhere in this area. So now it's time to get serious. I have two more rifles to use in today's video, and they are this is my Christian firearms, single shot falling block.
It looks like one of those silly toy goofy looking guns that you'd see in like World of Warcraft or something.
4-bore rifle. This thing weighs over 20 pounds and produces over 200 pounds of felt recoil. It has a 1-inch diameter bore, and it fires this.
What? When you say 200 pounds of felt recoil, does that mean you feel like you get an instantaneous 200 pounds on your shoulder?
This is a 2,150 grain bullet that is 1 inch in diameter. This is designed to take down the largest animals in the world, both modern and now comes down. Oh,
Hold on.
It's basically handheld artillery.
Hold on. I gotta watch that
Prehistoric
loading again.
animals. Okay, let's load this thing up. Your block comes down, and then you're loading your round. It's basically handheld artillery.
The loading of that round is so deceptively like not dramatic. You know what I mean? It's just like a little click, right? Versus like a bolt action, right? But but this is going to be a massive amount of recoil in muzzle velocity.
Oh!
Jeez. Now look at like how much vibration you get through the entire thing. How much material deformation throughout the entire. Granted, it's already lost a lot of material integrity because of the other rounds that have already been shot through it, though. And that is the thing about a test like this. Not only do I think the ballistics may not be accurate for this model because of the density of everything, but then you also have the issue of as you're firing into it, as you move up the caliber ranges, you're not really getting a true test because you're already like structurally compromising the ballistic dummy with the.
I think that hurt me more than it hurt him. You're wondering how hot it is.
Put into it.
Right there, you can almost came out some most powerful sporting rifle, the 950 JDJ. There are only 4 of these in the entire world. It weighs
I like how when you look at the stock, right? I think that's what it's called. Right, you got your stock, and then whatever the fuck this shit's called. What is it called again? Rifle diagram? I don't know. So see, this is what I'm talking about. Like one time I had a gun dude berate me because I called. No, this is the stock. Or the butt? No, the butt's the end of the stock, right? Stock. Handle of the firearm. The forestock. Okay, I guess the thing is with hunting rifles, the stock is considered all one piece, right? But I don't know why the guy like corrected me because I basically called this end the stock, but I feel like that's generally the case because like with guns in general, you have the stock here. For a rifle like this, because it's not all one piece, right? Do you call this? You don't call this the stock, do you? Magazine, floor plate, sling stud, receiver, cheek piece, palms of comb. Checkering. So that's not really. It's not as informative. Okay, yeah, I guess in these you do call this whole thing the stock. Butt stock. Okay, you refer to that end as the butt stock. Upper. See, but here's the thing, is where it gets a little tricky, is because in a rifle like this, where it's all not one piece, you'd call this the receiver, which is what I was. It's kind of what I was, that's where my mind was going. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways.
Pounds.
But it's interesting, the forestock here is by default flattened because they probably expect it, like you are not going to shoulder fire this, right? And I think I am using that term right? Shoulder fire is when you are, without like resting it on something else, you're shoulder firing. Shoulder, like missiles and rifles in shoulder pain, shoulder fired weapon typically man portable and fired from the shoulder. Shoulder fire versus shoulder firing versus. God damn it! I'm not gonna know. What do you call it when you fire when you have it like?
And it's producing over 300 pounds of felt recoil. And this is what it fires. This is a 2,400 grain bullet moving well. Ain't gonna know. Just enjoying the moment.
Oh, hold on a second. God damn! You gotta pull the whole thing apart and load it in there. It's like muzzle loading it back in the day or something.
I'm so excited to shoot this right now. I'm just totally not stalling. Just enjoying the moment,
like, obviously muzzle loading, you're going from the front end, but I just mean like you're actually like taking parts out, you're shoving stuff back in and stuff.
All right. Oh, here we go.
I'd be kind of concerned though. I mean, I know it's engineered properly and everything. I don't feel comfortable with the idea that that part right there that's holding back that uh that energy, that recoil energy or whatever, is not actually mechanically connected to the rifle, right? When you pull this bolt down, it holds it in place. But the failure point, or the point of like the weak chain in this entire system right here, would be right here where the bolt is interfacing with the stock of the rifle. So I mean, obviously it's engineered well enough that it handles that and everything. I don't feel comfortable with it.
Oh! Oh!
God. All right. All right. Well, hey, that was that video. Cool video nonetheless. I'm I'm a little bit skeptical that the ballistics are at all accurate, for the aforementioned reasons, but it was still a cool watch. I really would love to see how that T-Rex ballistic, model was made. I know we didn't actually play, so we'll play a little bit right here. I'm gonna watch this video by Dark Matter 2525. He has this video on political violence, the left versus the right. I've seen a few of this guy's videos, some of his excerpts from his content. It seems like he does like video essays where he actually dives in, so I appreciate that. This is a long fucking video, hour and a half basically, but I do appreciate when you put in the effort to dive into the facts here. So I guess there's a narrative online. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but political violence is I think it's like 60-30. I think it's like 60% from the right, 30% from the left. I think people think it's the other way around. And I think part of that is because the political violence you see from the left is usually very, it's like more sensational. It's easier to witness and see because it's usually in the form of like people rioting in the streets, burning property, right? And you have like a big group of people. But when it comes to like targeted assassinations and things of that nature, I think that tends to be more on the right. And if you think about that, that tends to be the case, right? Destroying property versus killing actual people. Not to say that both sides don't do that, right? But when it comes to actually assassinating, killing people, it seems like the right does a lot more of that than the left does. But I think the purpose, I saw just the intro and I didn't get anywhere near into this video. But I think in the intro he was talking about how Elon Musk is like pushing on his platform that it's actually left-wing political violence. So I think that was the impetus for him talking about it. I'm going to take a very quick break. Just grab something to snack on real fast before I dive into this. We'll actually play a little bit while we listen. This is one of those videos where I don't feel like I actually have to watch at the same time, so we'll just listen and play at the same time. Alright, give me a second. Alright, let's get into it, yeah.
On June 14th, 2025, immediately after a right-wing extremist assassinated politicians essential to the Democrats, thereby giving control of the Minnesota legislature to Republicans, Elon Musk retweeted false information and said, quote, the far left is murderously violent. 3 days later, Musk's AI, Grok, was asked, quote, "Since 2016, has the left or right been more violent?" And Grok correctly answered that data suggests right-wing political violence has been more frequent and violent. But Musk replied, quote, "Major fail, as this is objectively false. Grok is parroting legacy media, working on it." Elon Musk fails to perceive the truth when he sees it because he is ideologically captured by a persistently pushed narrative. And the same may be true of you if you also believe that the left has been more violent recently. Now, here's what's really amazing, though.
Sorry. I don't even blame your average person for thinking that. And I do give some blame to a lot of like left-wing activists and left-wing figures, because there's a lot of young people who are very upset, and I think, you know, rightfully upset, sometimes a little bit misled, but I think they have a lot of good reasons as well to be upset. But because they're young, they have like this idea of like, oh, we're gonna like, they don't really know how to effectively make their voice heard or to effectively practice politics. They just know how to kind of, you know, for lack of a better word, throw a tantrum, cause rioting, you know, get violent with the authorities and stuff. And I think they have this misguided notion that they're going to launch some kind of revolution or something, that they have the numbers, they have the training, that they have the ability to build something out of it after that, that the rest of the public isn't going to push back against them. It's delusional. And so you've had the left like normalize, you know, rioting in the streets, right? The response should have always been like, you know, we don't support the people that have rioted, you know, people that are acting kind of crazy around us when we're having protests, like we don't want you guys around here, get the fuck out of here, that kind of thing. But because they get kind of like wishy-washy with it, like they get like a little bit like defensive, and they get like a little bit self-conscious about it, they kind of waffle on actually pushing out and making a clear distinction between them and violent protesters. And it's been a little bit too normalized, like with the BLM, to have, you know, people actually burning and looting and shit at some of these protests. And I get that there's a lot of peaceful protesters in the mix who don't want to associate with that, right? But nevertheless, right, it is a huge optical issue if you have people who are surrounding you who are being violent, who are causing violence. Like, that's a concern for you. You don't want to have that be the perception about you and your movement. And I think it's easier for the general public to see that, see, you know, riots and see people looting and burning shit, burning Waymos in the street, than it is for when you see a mass murderer, right? I think people can look at that and just think, oh, well, this is just like lone wolf isolated incidents. And they're not seeing like there's a pattern of these incidents, and there's a pattern of rhetoric that is on the right, obfuscating and radicalizing the kind of people that do that violence, right? It's harder to make that connection. So I don't really blame the average person for having the impression that it's more on the left than it is on the right.
Not only is the
Not
left...
to mention, a lot of those, the political violence on the right just doesn't really get reported. I don't mean this in a conspiratorial manner. I know sometimes people will say that, like, oh, you just don't know because they don't report it. I just mean, like, we know what they did, the data says, so we know that there's more incidents on the right. From DOJ statistics or Department of Justice official law enforcement statistics. The question is, why don't we see them? Because probably a lot of them are kind of thwarted, and they're kind of smaller stories. Maybe someone beat someone up, maybe someone stabbed somebody, but it doesn't become like a mass shooting murder incident, so it doesn't really attract headlines in the same way, and so you don't really hear about it. Or you'll have like kind of these isolated incidents of, you know, there's been a few where you have like people burning Planned Parenthoods or, you know, assaulting a DNC office or something like that, where those aren't associated with a protest at the same time or a riot at the same time. So you hear those stories and then they kind of just fall by the wayside. And it's the same thing where it's like, oh, that just seems like an isolated incident. You're not seeing like a pattern there. And you're not really keeping track of them either.
Left currently significantly less violent than the right, which I know will be hard for some of you to believe, but Elon Musk alone has caused more damage to people than the entirety of the left combined. And I'm talking about both physical and financial harm caused in the last decade. Given that context, his statements go from factually incorrect
Chewbacca, what are you
to
doing?
outright absurdly ironic.
Chewbacca.
But I don't expect you to just blindly believe me, so I'm going to show you what I mean. First and foremost, let's address the nature of that narrative I was talking about, the narrative that misleads so many people into believing incorrect things about political violence. You see, the right and the left are attracted to and convinced by very different kinds of rhetoric. And this causes an imbalance in the discourse that gives rise.
Sorry. I think this point is very true, and I think if people were honest with themselves, they would recognize that this is just very obviously true. When you look at the left and the right, whose rhetoric is actually more violent, right? The right is very constantly talking about amassing stockpiles of guns under their Second Amendment right for the purposes of what? For the purposes in their mind of engaging in political violence when they deem it necessary because they think that something has gone too far, right? Whether or not you think that's justified, right? Whether or not you think it's justified, that is literally political violence. If you launch a violent revolution against the government because you think, oh, the government's become tyrannical or whatever, I'm sorry, but that is political violence, right? It is. We could talk about whether or not it's justified. That's a separate question. But that is very commonly the rhetoric on the right, and it's not even the fringes. That is a very mainstream view. Like their entire, love of the Second Amendment revolves around this idea that they're going to need to have a violent revolution against the government, take up arms against the government. That's become so incredibly normalized that we don't even bat an eyelash about that. That the idea that you have this political movement, it's a mainstream, widespread political movement that is very regularly talking about and normalizing the idea that they're going to take up arms to enact their political, their political project. And then also, if you just look at individual right-wingers online, they're constantly talking about things like, the way that they talk about immigrants, like, oh, we should just shoot them across the border. We should, you hear about immigrants getting like brutalized by immigration authorities, and they go, good, that's what they deserve. They shouldn't have come to this country illegally, right? They are normalizing brutality against people. There's a lot of militarism on the right? This glorification of military violence, right? The military is necessary. Military is a necessary evil. War is a necessary evil at times, sometimes, right? But on the right, it seems like there's like a celebration of like the glory of violence in and of itself, right? This connection between their masculinity and violence, right? Not for nothing, the ability to defend yourself and the people that you care about and the people that need to be defended is a masculine trait, and it's a good one, right? But there's a thin line between you train in martial arts and you do all these things, you train in weapons training. Someday maybe you might have to use it to defend people versus you just like glorifying violence and you look for any excuse for it. You long for the day when you're going to be able to start shooting and killing people, right? And there's a difference there.
To misconceptions. Right-wingers are more attracted to anecdotes than statistics. There could be many different reasons for that, but one I suspect is that the right tends to have less trust in institutions, and in order to even have access to large data sets, the involvement of institutions is necessary. So they're left with a less reliable way of gaining information about the world, things like individual statements and video of specific incidents. Oddly, however, some right-wingers seem to magically suddenly trust a statistic in cases where it seems to support their position. Make of that what you will. Usually, though, rather than look at statistics, a right-winger will see individual acts of violence in videos and then extrapolate that behavior onto an entire group of millions of people, like the political left, for instance. Right-wing influencers take...
Let me check my audio on this. I feel like this
Life,
stream's a little bit loud.
Right-wing influencers take...
Let me check my audio on this. I feel like this
life.
stream's a little bit loud.
Right-wing influence...
Or the YouTube video's a little loud. Maybe a little bit. Let me just adjust the volume settings for the YouTube stream.
Advantage of that cognitive vulnerability. A great way to brainwash people into believing the opposite of the truth is with a persistent narrative established through repetition. It's the same reason people are supposed to regularly attend church. The ability to dishonestly push a narrative that attempts to associate.
So I think the reason this works, by the way, because I think we've seen it in real time, is that if you repeat something over and over and over again, there's a tendency for other people to become numb to it, and people stop pushing back against that narrative. And over time, what other people start to kind of like subconsciously intuit is that, oh, I hear this claim all the time, right? And no one seems to push back against it, so I guess it must be true, right? There's a tendency for that, I've noticed in our politics, to happen where someone will make up a claim and they'll repeat it. Initially, you'll see media talk about it and push back against it and debunk it, but the media will move on to something else in the media cycle. And then a month later, right, those people who are making that claim are still making the claim, repeating it, spreading it online. But by this point, the people who were pushing back against it became like, oh, we already debunked this like a month ago. So they stopped putting an effort in debunking it. Well, there's new people that will come around and they'll hear it, that claim made, and they didn't hear the debunking a month ago. So they start to hear that claim and no one is pushing back against it. So they start to internalize it. Well, it must be true, right? If it wasn't true, you'd hear somebody talk about it.
Millions of innocent people with a few violent people is why they are so good at shaping and maintaining false perceptions in the minds of so many people. Leftism is at a clear disadvantage here because by their very nature, they do not value that tactic for the very reason that leftists are more likely to champion causes against bigotry, while right-wingers are more likely to embrace bigotry. Yes, I realize the irony of me telling you that right now, and deny it all you want, but consider their concerns.
Hi there. Was starting to think you wouldn't show.
I'd never disappoint a pretty face like yours.
You're cute. Not my kind of cute, but still. It's a shame. It was sweet of you, flying all the way out here to save me. You seem like a nice guy.
This is very obviously a trap too, by the way.
This isn't personal. I have to kill you. But it's for love.
Don't be stupid. You can't win.
I don't blame you for being angry. It makes things a little easier for me. See this wavy light around my body? It's a ray shield. Blaster fire can't get in or out. Neat, huh?
If blaster fire can't get out, how will you kill me?
Shh, quiet. I have to make a call. Sonic? It's me, Faylara. Surprise.
Long time no see, sweetheart. How'd you get this hollow frequency?
Does it matter? I've missed you so much, honey bunch.
I missed you too, honey bunch.
What is this, Captain? You making an army out of my ex-girlfriends?
It's not like that at all. This is your nemesis, right? The captain who stole your ship on Coruscant and made you look stupid?
Why don't I leave you lovebirds alone?
Got a better idea. I'll leave. Can't think of a better punishment for you.
Don't be like that. You know you love me. You're just afraid of commitment. I can prove how much I love you, Honey Bunch. I'm killing this nemesis for you. Get him, boys.
Sorry, give me a second here.
They champion anti-immigration causes, exclusionary policies, anti-LGBT legislation, white supremacist ideology, national isolationism, religious fundamentalism. Etc. The right is about excluding and homogeneity, while the left is about including and diversity. The result is that right-wing politicians...
Let's just call this even. With my ray shield on, you can't hurt me.
Hey, Laura, how are you powering that ray shield?
Portable battery pack.
You know those only last a few minutes, right?
Oh, no.
Aw, did the instructions have too many big words?
Honey Bunch, my shield is down. What am I gonna do?
I don't know. Die? Kill you later, Captain.
Honey Bunch, wait! He hung up. I thought he loved me.
What do we do here? Do we let her go or we kill her? My smuggler ain't, morally pure guy, so he's not about killing, but we know what, she tried to kill me, right? Would my smuggler kill her, or would he just leave her to her own fate? Huh. Fuck it.
Nobody loves you.
Damn!
Honey Bunch.
Influencers and media outlets will hyper-focus on acts of political violence by the left, while completely ignoring or burying all the many acts of political violence by the right, with the specific goal of making the left look more violent. Meanwhile, the left typically does not engage in that same tactic because they don't value anecdotes and they don't draw sweeping conclusions based on the actions of a few. This means that there's an imbalance in the rhetoric that many right-wingers mistake for an imbalance in the violence. The truth is that not only does the data show that right-wing violence is more frequent and more deadly, but you can also find many more anecdotes of right-wing political violence. I'll show you some of the more egregious ones you never hear about. But first, what if an event is too big to be ignored or buried, and it goes against the right-wing narrative about violence? In response to such an event, right-wing politicians, influencers, and media outlets will just simply shamelessly lie about it.
big if true, but also, yeah. I don't know what else to say, but I mean, he's just right. The example I used at the beginning about this, these two politicians that were killed in Minnesota, right? The right wing, like before any information was out there, were just right away, oh, left wingers are so violent. Left wingers did this, right? Why? Why would they attack their own? Doesn't really make sense, right? But they don't have any problem with just lying.
Let me guess. It was a trap.
I had some turbulence, but I worked things out.
Obviously. But how much time did we lose on this fool's errand? If there's one thing I hate, it's phony distress calls. They make spacers too paranoid to answer the real ones.
I'll always do what I can for my fellow spacers.
Very noble. I wonder how much trouble that policy will buy us. Let's get out of here. Deep space gives me the creeps. I've set up some new deals on Alderaan and Tatooine. Ready to deliver the rest of this cargo?
Who gets the head? Okay.
Whatever it takes to make me
I don't know what
rich.
that means. I don't think
That's
it meant
the
to be
spirit.
sexual, but Alderaan, here we come. My favorite planet. Go talk some shit on some nobles.
They will muddy the waters and generate enough doubt, confusion, and debate to cause fatigue and eventually even abandonment of the
Alderaan
topic
certainly is the
itself.
prettiest world on our
This is
itinerary.
part of the tactic.
Fool you, though. This is the most dangerous planet of the core worlds. The nobles here could teach the Sith a few things about backstabbing and assassination.
You should hide in my
Flirtation
bunk,
is so
where it's
corny.
safe.
Tempting, but I'll take my chances with the nobles. I'm reckless that way. Every so often, the noble families spill their bloodlines fighting for the throne. The current succession war is the bloodiest on record. Since the Empire arrived to put its own puppet in charge, there's no telling who will come out on top.
Obviously, I will, of course.
Who's the big shot around here?
House Olgo seized the throne, but maybe not for long. The whole planet's a war zone. The first time I visited, I thought all the nobles were so glamorous. Then I saw the truth. These people don't know how lucky they are, or what they should do with their fortunes. They don't deserve to rule.
I'll show these nobles a few new tricks.
Just take care of our business first before you go cheating someone out of their crown jewels. Your first delivery is a piece of glaze cake. All you have to do is escort that antique power droid to House Organa's castle. Since House Organa runs this spaceport and their castle is right around the corner, dropping off the droid should be a quick run.
The droid's my first delivery. What's the second?
One deal at a time, Captain. Let's focus on dumping that bucket of bolts. The droid belongs to a couple of young nobles, Len Taran and his sister Sidonia. Decent people, all things considered.
Got it. I better get moving.
But what he just said right now, I'll rewind for a second here, is exactly what I meant.
To generate enough doubt, confusion, and debate to cause fatigue and eventually even abandonment of the topic itself.
That's exactly what I was talking about, right? That initially people will push back on it, but the fatigue, people will drop the issue, but they won't. They're not going to drop the issue. They're relying on the other side to drop the issue. Oh yeah, and then the whole flood the zone tactic, which is to overwhelm the opposition with rhetoric so that the opposition doesn't really have a chance to, respond to everything, basically.
This is part of the tactic Steve Bannon called flooding the zone with shit. Think of all the lies.
Steve Bannon, for all the evil and craziness that he is, right? People would do really well to pay attention to what he actually says, because he is actually a very astute political strategist, rhetorician, propagandist, whatever you want to call it, these things that he says are true, right? He knows what he's doing when he does this. And he's absolutely right that, and it worked, right? They've flooded the zone with rhetoric. It causes fatigue. Other people drop the issue, or they're overwhelmed by the amount of issues that they have to address. And basically their side wins by default. The way out of this, and I've made this point for a long time, is to don't wait for them to flood the zone and then respond. You flood the zone right back, right?
That were immediately spread about the January 6th storming of the Capitol, for instance. I already went over a lot of those in my video called The Narrative versus the Truth, so I won't do it again here, even though much more could be said about it. More recently, though, the right-wing media machine had to do damage control to protect its narrative from the fact that a far-right extremist assassin went on a shooting spree, killing a prominent Democrat politician and her husband, and shot and wounded another Democrat politician and his wife. Those two survived, fortunately, but not for lack of trying to kill them. He shot one of them 9 times and the other 8 times in front of their daughter. 4 Democrats shot. Nobody else. Republican politicians, far-right influencers, and media outlets immediately spread falsehoods, claiming that this assassin of Democrats was an obvious Democrat himself. And here's the thing, millions of people seemed to either believe them or at least be persuaded enough to say that they don't know either way. So, who really was this assassin, and what really motivated him? Before I get into that, let me just say that after a killer shoots a bunch of people, immediately hunting for the killer's political ideology so that we can play the blame game doesn't sit well with me. It's more useful to learn what we can about it for prevention methods rather than blame game methods.
I mean, the very reason why he feels the need to talk about it is the very reason why it doesn't bother me to talk about it. There are very important reasons why you do want to do that analysis. It's for, specifically in this case, right? Why, like what is the thing that precipitated this? It's the rhetoric on the right. It's the political environment. What kind of things radicalize? Those are important things to talk about. The blame game is important, okay? To know and to make sure that those sorts of things don't happen in the future.
But when so many people lie about it and successfully convince millions of people of those lies, we're sort of forced to play this game just to set the record straight. But please know that it doesn't go beyond that for me. If you're a conservative, I'm not trying to implicate you the way a lot of these far-right influencers try to implicate leftists, no matter who the killer.
I mean, I think it's fair to say, I think the right gets away, your average voter on the right gets away with allowing all this stuff to happen in their name, and it's not 1 or 2 incidents, it's very constant, right? There's a pattern of this kind of behavior, and they keep voting for it, they keep supporting it, they keep turning a blind eye to it. They do have some culpability in that. Doesn't mean that they pulled the trigger themselves, no, right? But they are part and parcel to the environment that leads to that sort of thing, and I think they do deserve to have some credit thrown at their feet for it. A negative credit, but you know what I mean. If for nothing else, so that they can actually, they're not going to change their behavior if they keep getting away with supporting shit like this and then never having to have any kind of accountability for it.
Killer really is. My greatest disdain is not for regular people like you, but for those dishonest influencers, politicians, and media outlets. Here are some facts about the killer. He caused 4 casualties, 2 killed and 2 wounded, all Democrats. The prosecutors say he visited the homes of other lawmakers who fortunately were not home at the time. Their names were not released, but Senator Ann Rest announced on June 16th that she was made aware that the killer's vehicle was parked near her house that Saturday. She is a Democrat. The police recovered...
I think I heard that Ilhan Omar was also on his list. I mean, he targeted Democrats. Everyone that we know that was on the list was a Democrat. I mean, like, Republicans form conspiracies and patterns off of far less. Like, can we just stop bullshitting and being around the bush? He was obviously probably there's a high probability he's probably a right-winger who hated Democrats. I mean, the guy was a Christian pastor, member of a Christian nationalist grouping and everything. I think he was even a Trump supporter. I think we know that much about him, right? I could be wrong about that, but he's not a complete unknown. We don't have to pretend, right?
Wrote a notebook from the car that included a list of 45 elected officials he planned to kill, all Democrats, including Tim Walz.
Oh, I guess we do know that now. I wasn't aware of that. So yes, I mean, it's all right there for you. It's very obvious.
And Ilhan Omar. He also plotted to kill various doctors at Planned Parenthood locations. He was an evangelical preacher who gave anti-LGBT sermons. Here's an example of him doing that.
No sin. Il n'y a aucun péché. That God can't take care of. Dieu ne peut pas enlever. Nothing. Il n'y a rien. There's people, especially in America. Il y a des gens, particulièrement aux États-Unis. They don't know what
Where's he giving this to? Is she speaking French or something?
sex they are. They don't
They don't know what sex they are, so we have to murder and kill them, right? These people they're fucking deranged. Right? I think it goes in the reverse direction, to be honest with you. I think they have the hatred in their heart and they look for every fucking excuse in the world to rationalize and justify it. The responsible thing, the healthy thing would be, hey, you know what? I have this bias. I need to work on myself.
know how their sexual orientation. They're confused. Ils ne savent pas ce qu'ils sont exactement. Ils ont une confusion. The enemy has gotten so far into their mind and their soul.
The enemy. There you go, right? The enemy. And this is the kind of thing, like, this is rhetoric that's so fucking normalized on the right to refer to your political opposition as the enemy, to refer to immigrants that come over as invaders. What do you do with invaders? You fight back with lethal force. An invasion implies like a military occupation of your territory, but they refer to these people as an invasion. They had Donald Trump calling them an infestation. What do you do with infestations? You exterminate them, right? The rhetoric is normalized on their side. Like, you know, all these right-wingers, all these conservatives blow smoke up their own fucking asses, pretending, right? And I'm gonna be harsh about it because, frankly speaking, they engage in violent, destructive, evil fucking rhetoric, and you know we don't owe it to them to be all polite while they're being extremely fucking crazy.
L'ennemi est entré dans le fond de leur pensée et de leur âme. But this word, mais ces paroles.
The killer's lifelong friend identified him to the police after receiving incriminating text messages from him. According to that same friend, the killer was very anti-abortion, was a Donald Trump supporter, liked the Alex Jones show, and said he would be very insulted about all these people calling him a Democrat.
And like also the whole thing, like all these Christians, all these conservatives that, you know, worship Trump and everything, it needs to be pointed out more, right? Their whole thing is they think that they are the moral authority for the rest of the world, that they need to be in charge so they could purge the society of all these degrading social, moral, ethical, whatever values and everything, and institute their own. They're going to set society on the right path. The people that they support, the people they surround themselves with, are belligerent, evil, disgusting, like mean-spirited, bully-type people. In what world, right? You don't embody any of the positive things that you claim that you want to make the world a better place with. The things that you embody, the things that you support, are all like mean-spirited, nasty, vile, bullying, harassment, right? And then they'll rationalize it, right? Like, oh, well, you know, God chooses flawed people to... Okay, well, yeah, you're just making shit up in order to justify why all the people you support, all the most prominent things you support are violent, you know, bullying, harassment. It's one thing to disagree with LGBT people, but then you go around and you talk about them like they're a scourge to be exterminated. You talk about them like they're demons. You talk about them like you hate them and you're disgusted by them. That isn't you talking about it because you think that it's an issue that is hurting people. That's you talking about it because you hate, because you're evil, because you're a vile person.
be offended if people called him a Democrat.
And David Carlson, once again, his roommate and best friend, known him since 4th grade, did say Bolter voted for Trump and that he was a strong supporter.
Beyond his friend, though, does any official record indicate who he voted for? Well, the Minnesota DFL party released data showing that he voted in last year's presidential primary election, but not as a Democrat. The Republican Party of Minnesota knows if he voted as a Republican.
They wouldn't give that information. I did hear that part. Why? Ask yourself why. Why wouldn't they give? They said, oh, to protect privacy or whatever. Okay, well, yeah, you're protecting the privacy of someone who murdered a bunch of people. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like you're doxing every person that goes to your church or everything, or goes, yeah. I mean, it's not even a church, it's a political party. You're talking about someone who's a criminal with relevant information pertaining to the motivation behind their crime. I think it's a little bit different. I think you can release that information. They're not doing it because they know what the answer is, and they don't want to make their own side look bad. They don't want to be honest about the kind of rhetoric that is motivating and inspiring violence, and it's coming from their side.
I never like asking for favors, Captain, but I think maybe we know each other well enough by now. I want to look for my cousin Rona. She's all the family I got left, and I think she should know what happened.
You can ask me for anything. Jeez, dude, you don't have to word it like that.
So call her on the comm. What do I care?
I don't know where Rona is now. Rona came with me when I left for the brigade, but she jumped ship at the first port. All she ever wanted was to get off Ord Mantell. I thought maybe we could track her down. You'd like her. She's really the reason I'm here.
I wouldn't be telling him that. This guy's a womanizer.
You two will be back together before you can say a verbal Thurs vibroblade.
A verbal... So not that soon, then. Rona was kind of our family rebel. We used to have a blast together. She liked me to run interference, so her father never caught her on dates with off-worlders.
I look forward to meeting her.
On second thought, maybe I shouldn't introduce you two.
Yeah, I don't know what you're
thinking. Always had a nose for trouble. I remember one time, Uncle came looking for Rona while she was on the shuttle pod with some Agamarian pirate. I was about 12. I didn't know how else to distract Uncle, so I started the fight. Got the whole ship confiscated. I never did find out how Rona got out of city jail.
Another one?
I found someone who knows my cousin Rona. He's a street doctor in Coruscant. Kind of a shady character, but that's who Rona always drifted to.
How did he find this guy?
I think he really can get us to her, but...
Oh, drifted, okay. But what?
I know a scam when I hear one.
Rona loved to walk that line. Every time Uncle caught her stealing, it would turn out she was sneaking cash to some mom with 2 kids on the street. She's the reason I know breaking the law's got nothing to do with being a good man.
Breaking the law.
Let's just go to Coruscant and hear her friend out. Go ahead and ask for cash for the job if you want. I want to find Rona.
Corso Rigs.
But they declined to share their data on him because they said they consider that data to be private. Given these facts, his political ideology and motive seem fairly obvious to me. So how were right-wing influence...
I mean, honestly, even that we're even having like a debate over it. Yeah, it is obvious, right? The fact that Republicans want to like play games around that. To anybody who's being completely honest with themselves, it tells you everything you need to know about Republicans, that this is a very obvious, right? They're basically gaslighting everybody else, trying to play games around. Oh, I don't know. Who knows who you voted for? Who knows why you killed them? I don't know, right? Like, and this isn't even a small lie. This is like a malicious, evil lie, right? And I think that word should be used more often, right? The shit that they engage in is evil. Is evil shit. Evil.
Is able to convince millions of people that this killer of Democrats was himself a Democrat? Well, through three misleading arguments. Argument number one, he shot the only Democrats who broke party lines to vote with Republicans for a bill that would deny medical benefits to illegal aliens. What are the facts? Only one of the Democrats he shot voted with Republicans, Melissa Hortman. The other Democrat legislator he shot, John Hoffman, voted against the...
See how they'll just simply lie, right? Oh, they didn't lie. One of them voted. Okay, but that wasn't really their claim, was it? They're trying to make it sound like everybody that he was targeting, right? If it's only that one politician that he shot that had voted, and by the way, like they're cherry picking, right? Because they're cherry picking in a multitude of ways, but they're cherry picking because that's the one piece of legislation that you're pointing out, right? What about all the other legislation? But you only want to focus on that one, right? Because that one piece spins the narrative that you want. But then you're not telling people that really that only applies to one of the people that he shot. It doesn't apply to the other person. But they're just lying. They're just brazenly lying. Same outfit.
The Republicans, so that motive would not be consistent. The details of their votes are also something to consider. Melissa Hortman negotiated with the Republicans by agreeing to disallow undocumented adults from receiving medical benefits if undocumented children could continue to receive medical benefits. So not so cut and dry. She still successfully fought for illegal immigrants, or undocumented immigrants, whichever you want to call them. Once agreed, she cast her vote to prevent a government shutdown over the issue. She did not want to do it and expressed as much in an interview. She has been one of the most successful Democrats at getting progressive legislation passed. All of those facts make it seem very unlikely to be a motive for the killer and cannot be a motive for shooting John Hoffman, who voted against the Republicans. Not only that, but the legislature in Minnesota was split evenly, so killing Democrats would give the Republicans an advantage to pass even more bills that would be disagreeable to a Democrat or a leftist.
Sense, right? If his whole thing is he wanted to kill those Democrats because they voted with the Republicans, why would he then kill them in order to make it so that that legislative body is now majority Republicans, making it easy for them to pass legislation now?
If you're against Republicans, then it obviously would not make sense to kill Democrats in such a narrow legislature. But that's where we're at now. The Republicans now have an advantage because Democrats were assassinated. And we are expected to believe that it was a leftist who did.
Not just that, but we're expected to just fucking put up with that. How fucking insane is that? We're basically hostage to Republicans who will murder and assassinate people. And then, you know, I think that counts as authoritarianism at that point when, like, we can't even have representation. You kill them. And then you use that in order to now push legislation on us that isn't even, like, you're not even fairly getting that legislation to office anymore. You shouldn't have had those numbers, but now you have them through assassination. And we're supposed to just put up with that.
Take a look at the stock. What can I get?
Republicans are so full of themselves, have their heads so far up their own fucking asses, think that they're so entitled, right? That they expect the rest of us to just put up with that. Can you imagine if they had to put up with that kind of behavior and direct in their direction? But they don't even think about that. They don't even see how unfair that is. They don't even see how like corrupt and like they don't see the hypocrisy of that. Why the fuck should we put up with that kind of behavior? That's insane.
That. Did the Democrats who were shot have a common denominator that could be a reason for targeting them? Yes. They were both very outspoken supporters of abortion rights. They were instrumental in passing legislation securing abortion rights in Minnesota after the overturning of Roe v. Wade, and their killer was vehemently anti-abortion and planned to target abortion providers as well. That is a motive consistent across all the people targeted. Argument number 2. The killer was appointed to a government position by Tim Walz, the Democrat governor of Minnesota, so the killer can't possibly be a Republican. What are the facts? Tim Walz renewed his already existing appointment to the Governor's Workforce Development Board, which is an apolitical
And this should go without saying. I mean, like, adults shouldn't be making stupid arguments like this. You should already know, right? How many positions is a governor appointing? Is the governor coming through each individual employee, right? Is he coming through each and every one with a fine-tooth comb, like every single employee of the government that he's going to appoint? No, right? Furthermore, right, was Tim Walz supposed to know that this guy was murderous before he appointed him? And like, he didn't even appoint him, by the way. He did, but he's really just reconfirming him, right? He's not just saying, hey, you know, you've been in that position. Yeah, you're a Republican, but I'm not biased. You know, you've been doing the job. Fine, we're going to reconfirm you. It's not like Tim Walz went out his way to select this person and put him in that position.
Nonpartisan Nothing Burger Community Committee that currently has Republicans on it. There are many open positions on such boards which you can get simply by volunteering, and they do not bother with your political affiliation. A spokesperson for the governor said that the governor doesn't even interview applicants to such boards. It's likely that the killer never even met Tim Walz, and that all Tim Walz did was sign a form letter, just like he did for...
Yeah, and keep in mind, like, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is the case. The way that he's describing it kind of sounds like he's not really signing on to each individual person individually. They probably make a recommendation for like a variety of positions, and then he looks at it, takes like a general look at it, and then signs off on it, trusting that that committee, that board, probably knows, you know, the intricacies of the positions and the candidates for those positions better than he does, right?
For all the other members. So that seems like an extremely weak reason to call him a Democrat, especially in light of all the other evidence. If I may speculate on that beyond the facts, I suspect that it's projection, and the people who make such arguments cannot imagine themselves working with the opposing party, even though Tim Walz constantly does exactly that. It stems from difficulty imagining people thinking differently than yourself, a lack of empathy. I suspect it's projection because it was actually Donald Trump who wanted party loyalty tests for hiring new government employees. Regardless,
this is true, by the way, in case you're not aware of this. The Trump administration now demands loyalty, not even to the United States, not even to the Republican Party, loyalty to Trump. Okay? And for those of you that, it's unfair to call Republicans authoritarian, well then why do you have, people in positions that govern swearing loyalty to the one person? That's only something that they do in dictatorships. You don't swear loyalty to the president or to the government official. You swear loyalty to the United States, to the Constitution. Swearing loyalty to a person is kind of stuff dictators do. I shouldn't even have to say this. This is like basic history knowledge.
For this droid. I'm here to collect.
Welcome home, you ugly little thing. I mean the droid, of course.
This is no time for your juvenile jokes. We should properly introduce ourselves. I am Lady Sidonia Terran, Herald of the Gold Aurora.
And I'm her brother, Lord Len Terran, Warden of the Eternal Flame. Please call me Len.
What should I call your beautiful sister?
Seti. She loves that.
Please don't listen to my brother. He has the unfortunate quality of being an idiot. My brother and I are all that remains of House Terran's noble bloodline.
One of Alderaan's more reprehensible pedigrees, House Bayless, slaughtered our family and seized all our holdings.
You still have this old clanker, for whatever it's worth?
This droid holds new hope for us, literally. Centuries ago, our ancestors hid something inside it for safekeeping.
Pirates absconded with the unfashionable machine generations ago. Tracking it down has consumed our family since before we were born.
What that droid contains will rebuild House Terran. But we need instructions to safely open the hidden compartment. It's rigged to explode, you see.
The instructions are at our family's estate, now occupied by House Bayless's forces. Without those instructions, we can't pay you.
Are you looking to hire me?
You're obviously talented at acquiring things.
The instructions we need are in a datapad of Terran family history at our estate's library. If you retrieve that datapad, we'll add a substantial bonus to your payment.
And there are some family heirlooms we'll do handsomely to recover while you're there.
What am I looking for, exactly?
They'll be the valuable-looking things surrounded by guards.
Len, it's time for your meeting with House Organa. Don't keep their counselors waiting this time.
You just want this handsome stranger to yourself. Next time, dear sister, you get to beg our hosts for their table scraps. What are you waiting for? An invitation? I'll try not to come back too soon, dear sister.
Jeez, weird.
I couldn't face another dreary meeting with House Organa's counselors. Thank you for sparing me.
I've been looking forward to a private chat since I got here.
I'll try not to disappoint you. When I was a girl, I dreamed of adventuring among the stars. What's it like, living that life?
Come to my ship and see.
That would generate no end of gossip. This is already quite a breach of etiquette, you know. An off-world man calling on a lady in private. People will talk.
Face it, you can't resist me.
I'm often drawn to things I'm not supposed to have. Regardless, I've kept you from your business long enough. Please take care of yourself out there.
It wasn't even a government employee position. It was strictly an unpaid, voluntary community board with Republicans currently on it. So again, very weak, yet there were influencers who used it to actually call the killer a good friend.
And think about this too, right? In a way, they're also kind of normalizing violence against Democrats even more at that point, because now they're suggesting that Democrats are the reason why other political figures are getting assassinated. Right? They're blaming Democrats on it. If you're building up a population to think that Democrats are violent, to think that they are behind political assassinations, right? You're further radicalizing your own base of supporters against the other half of the population. Not only are you encouraging, promoting, running interference for violence against the opposition, you're also blaming the opposition for that violence, and then further giving your base of radicalized people reason to think that it's justified to be extreme against that opposition. Everything about this is incredibly manipulative, evil, like actual evil behavior. And these are the people that think that they have some kind of moral authority and that they're going to bring back morality to society. They're going to structure us to have a better society, a safer society, right? They're going to generate a lot of sociopathy, a lot of death and suffering, a lot of radicalism within our society. These aren't people that are going to build a positive society. These are people that have evil influence within society.
Friend of Tim Walz, a man he likely never met, and a man who was literally on his kill list.
Right?
That's how egregiously these influencers will lie
and
to you.
again, how fucking evil is that? How evil is it to blame the person who was a target of this assassin for the assassinations? These people they're actually evil, right? And when I say that, right, and I shouldn't have to always spoiler this or whatever, I'm not referring to every average Republican voter who doesn't really pay super close attention to politics or anything, but the political figures, the political commentators, they know all this, they're aware of all this. These people, they're actually evil people. They are evil.
The third and final argument I've seen is that there were pieces of paper with no kings written on them found in the fake police.
Oh yeah, I guess he had a flyer for the No Kings protests, right? But think about that for a minute. Right, with all the other things that we know about him, he's overwhelmingly he's a Republican, he's a Trump supporter. He had a target list. He only killed Democrats. He was targeting Democrats. Okay, so he has a No Kings poster. Do you think he was going there to support the protest? Or do you think he had that because he intended to also go there and kill some more Democrats? Which makes more sense to you? Which lines up more with what we already know?
This car he used while committing the murders. You see, he disguised himself as a policeman when he did the killings, and wore a rubber mask to hide his face. So he was actively taking steps to hide his identity and present himself as something he was not.
That's not even the angle that I would go, right? I don't believe he had in his car to try to fool people that he was a Democrat. I think he probably had it in his car because he thought, well, I'm going to go kill some Democratic politicians, and maybe I'll go kill some Democrats at this protest as well.
No Kings was what the nationwide protests were called that day. Why did he have a bunch of papers with those words written on them? For that, we currently have no facts to turn to, so we can only speculate. In light of all the other evidence against him, is it enough to call him a Democrat? Not even close. So what were they doing there? Well, there could be many different reasons. One reason could be that he planned to use them as calling cards so that far-right people would do exactly what they're doing now and use them as evidence that he was a Democrat, leftist, or a No Kings protester. The guy took steps to disguise himself and obviously did not intend.
I think that when he disguised himself, it wasn't to, ultimately escape identification, right? I think it was, or to put blame on the police or whatever. I think it was just that he can easily gain the trust of the people that he was going to then assassinate. I think that's probably the more likely explanation there. A little bit more of a simple explanation, but makes more sense. Jeez. I guess other dude being a level 1 probably has something to do with it.
Tends to be caught for us to know his real history. Since he was willing to disguise himself as a policeman while doing the crimes, why wouldn't he also disguise himself after the crimes were done, like a No Kings protester? If that's true, then all these far-right influencers are doing exactly what this murderer wanted them to do.
I mean,
It's just crazy that it still worked even though he was caught and we know his far-right extremist history. Another reason could be that someone left a stack of those papers out for the protesters to use and he simply stole them because he doesn't like them. I've seen people take entire stacks of political flyers and steal political signs for that very reason. I even got one on video. Take a look. Here's dash cam footage I personally took of someone I saw angrily kicking down a Hillary Clinton sign back in 2016. He then removed the sign and put it in the back of his pickup truck. Can you imagine if he then killed a bunch of people while having that Hillary Clinton sign in his truck? Would it prove that he was a Hillary supporter? Of course not. He was precisely the opposite. Would people use it to claim he was a Clinton supporter? Of course they would. It could be the same situation for this killer of Democrats. So, those are the three arguments that convinced millions of people that prominent Democrat politicians were assassinated by a Democrat. I don't believe that all, or maybe even most, of the people who made those ridiculous arguments actually believe in them. It's all about pushing that narrative, protecting that narrative. The New York Post was quick to create this extremely misleading headline, which no longer exists, by the way, and it no doubt helped give the influencers their talking points, including Trump himself, who referred to the killer as a Walls appointee. They know what they're doing. What's disturbing is that large influencers with millions of followers and even far-right politicians like Republican Senator Mike Lee, who made these despicable tweets he has since deleted, and even Elon Musk himself with his garbage tweets, are now actively participating in protecting the narrative that leftists are violent by pushing the lie that this killer of Democrats was himself a Democrat.
Tatooine first.
You can see the lies in support of the narrative being repeated by accounts all across the internet, in tweets, Facebook posts, YouTube videos, comment sections of news articles, etc. And I'm sure many of those comments are real. But I also suspect that many of them are bot accounts used to create an illusion of consensus by people with a vested interest in pushing certain narratives. Never blindly believe something just because you see a bunch of comments that support it. Chatbots that can pass a Turing test are absolutely everywhere now, deployed by governments, scammers, and propagandists alike, so beware of that. One rather infuriating phenomenon is when people who share the beliefs of the killer blame the victims for being killed. For example, I saw this Fox News article titled, "Ex-Vikings player blames Tim Walz for Minnesota lawmaker killings, example of a weak, emasculated leader." The article says that the ex-Viking player believes the assassination was the result of Democrats and Walz's leadership. The main absurdity of this...
So what is that argument? That argument is, oh, well, you guys deserve to get killed because your leadership was bad. He killed you guys because your leadership was bad. Right, so basically Republicans justifying the assassination of people because they have political differences. You want to talk about cancel culture, they will actually just fucking murder you. They'll ship you off to a foreign country. They'll deport you. They'll strip you of your citizenship if you don't agree with them. You know, fuck getting banned from social media. They'll just fucking kill you.
Goofy article is that it even exists in the first place. Nobody would know or care about this guy's political beliefs if it weren't for his football career. Yet because Fox News has influence over people, we now have to address him. He said, quote, On this Father's Day, I wish Minnesota would focus on restoring fatherhood, protecting women, protecting families. Tim Walz is the example of a weak, emasculated leader. That is not what God made fathers to be. It's pathetic." Unquote. He actually chose to say that after Democrats were murdered by this guy.
I'm excited about God.
Je suis excité de Dieu.
And I want to worship Him.
Et c'est pourquoi je l'adore.
God.
The murderer himself would wholeheartedly agree with this football player that Fox News gave a giant platform to use.
I've been seeing this a lot too. Like Rogan was doing this too. Like, oh, Tim Walz, like I fucking hate that guy. He's not a real man. And shit. Like, well, why this reaction to him? What? Like, why? What the fuck is that all about? I don't understand it, right? And by the way, like, what makes Tim Walz like some emasculated man? What? He's a hunter. He likes to work on cars and shit. What is the issue there? The issue, frankly speaking, is that they just fucking hate liberals, right? And I can't use like a strong enough term there, but like they fucking hate you. They hate you. Just for being liberal, just for having a difference of opinion. I mean, what other reason are they going to give for why they think Tim Walz is an emasculated man? Because he's old and he's chubby? I mean, newsflash, a lot of Republicans are too, right? Trump's chubby, Trump's fucking fat. J.D. Vance, I mean, he's lost a little bit of weight, but he was a fat guy too at one point, for much of his career. A lot of these Republicans are fat fucking pieces of shit themselves. Steve Bannon's a fat fucker too, right? Tucker Carlson's put on a little bit of chub recently, right? But you don't hear them talking about Republicans that way. Why? Because their whole political project, a huge part of it is just about, if you disagree with me, I'm basically gonna do like high school bully tactics called, oh well, if you don't agree with me on my politics, that's because you're gay. That means you're a girl. That means you're not a real man, right? Hey guys, I think maybe tariffs are probably like a bad idea to apply universally on every other country, especially our allies. We don't even have a plan to, you know, phase them in or bring manufacturing back home before we do it. Gay, you're loser, right? That's the mentality. And you want to talk about demasculation and patheticness and everything? That shit is actually pathetic. That shit is actually like, you're not actually a real man when you behave that way. You're still in high school. You're still a boy. You're still a child.
Used to blame the Democrats for being murdered by a guy who agrees with the far right. It's their own fault for being murdered. That's what we're being told now. We're being told that the people who were killed, the people who fought tooth and nail, so that at least undocumented children could still get medical benefits, are the ones who aren't protecting families. That's how egregious the propaganda is. A perfect
Well, you know, that's because real men would let the immigrant children die, right? Real men would do the hard thing that, you know, that needs to be done, which is beating the shit out of these brown people and making sure that their children die without health care. Because that actually, it needs to be done. Okay? It actually needs to be done. You don't understand, right? It's not that we hate these people. It's that, oh, it had to be done. It had to be that way, right? We just don't have enough money for it. And the reason that I'm saying it with that tone is because it's just not true, right? They're not a huge drain on the system. None of that shows up anywhere. Like, this belief system that it needs to happen, that they need to be this cruel to people, is really, like, they just want to be cruel to people, and then they look for rationales for it on the back end. They don't actually have data that, you know, gives them a reasonable reason why that needs to be the case. They say it's the case, and they want people to believe them, but underneath it all is just, they just fucking hate people. And they have a lack of empathy for other people. And they think that shit's normal, and they think it's cool and everything. They think it's Christian to be that callous and that fucking disgusting and brutal to other people.
Version of reality. The people who talk about protecting families gleefully post, "I voted for that," when they see families torn apart and deported. I highly doubt I need to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Compare the immediate reaction right-wing influencers had when Democrat lawmakers were assassinated.
Oh shoot, I don't think I can.
To the immediate reaction they had after the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. Without knowing anything, they immediately accused the would-be assassin of either being a Democrat, a far leftist, or both, and that he was obviously inspired by vitriolic rhetoric used against Donald Trump. Back when their politician was shot at, the motive wasn't even questioned. It was obvious to them, even when there were still zero details. There's always a double standard. If leftist or Democrat influencers said, no, the assassin was actually a Republican,
then by the way, right, for a long time they've been saying things like, oh, I think it's great, I want to go back to being able, this cancel culture's bad, I want to go back to being able to have disagreements and still be able to get along and everything. Meanwhile, it's actually a good thing that they got assassinated. Actually, you guys had it coming to you. Right? Bullshit. Absolute bullshit. Alright, there's one of these guys left, I can kill him.
It would have called those influencers absolutely insane, because that's pretty much what happened. It was discovered that the guy was actually a registered Republican. But that info was completely ignored or disbelieved by many right-wingers because he also happened to make a $15 donation when he was 17 years old through Act Blue to the Progressive Turnout Project. Either way, The FBI said there's very little information about his political views, that he had been planning an attack for over a year, researching various events, but then settled on the Trump rally shortly after it was announced. So they think it was a target of opportunity. At least in that case, I can understand why a right-winger would assume that a guy who tried to assassinate Trump is on the political left. That is at least consistent. It makes sense. Despite contradictory evidence, it became a guilt by association campaign. Everyone understood that was going to happen no matter what. And to this day, right-wingers point the finger, saying, you guys tried to kill Trump, even after everything we learned about the assassin. What I learned about the assassin of Democrats, however, is that sadly, regardless of who is killed or who does the killing, and no matter how strong the evidence, right-wing influencers will always immediately flood social media with claims that it was a leftist or a Democrat or a transgender person or insert political enemy, even when they know very little, and even when it's Democrats who are targeted. That's because it's important for the maintenance of their narrative to do so. Truth be damned, that narrative being that only Democrats and leftists do political violence. That narrative works very well, specifically because of the imbalance in the rhetoric I mentioned earlier. How well would that narrative work, however, if leftists engaged in the same tactic? What you won't typically find in the current leftist rhetoric is constant reminders of the recent violence committed by right-wingers, so it's very easy to just memory hole them. If you're a conservative, you can probably list acts of violence by people you consider leftists right off the top of your head. You'll think of LA riots, Tesla vandalism, a transgender mass shooter, the attempted assassinations of Donald Trump or Steve Scalise, and you'll think of them even if you know nothing of their political affiliations. But how often have you seen references to recent acts of right-wing violence? Like the Jacksonville Dollar General shooting, 3 killed by a white supremacist. The Allen, Texas outlet mall shooting, 7 wounded, 8 killed by a neo-Nazi white supremacist. The Buffalo supermarket shooting, 3 wounded, 10 killed by a white supremacist. The Boogaloo murders of Oakland and Santa Cruz, 3 wounded, 2 killed. The El Paso Walmart shooting, 26 wounded, 22 killed by an anti-immigrant white nationalist. The Poway Synagogue shooting, 3 wounded, 1 killed by an anti-Semitic racist. The Jeffersontown Kroger shooting, 2 killed by an anti-black racist. The murder of Robert Miller, a black man burned by a white supremacist.
That's a point that I've been trying to make for a while. There's really no good reason why liberals have not been just hammering narratives like this. They let Republicans just run away with the ball, right? We have so many arguments, actually legitimate, actually fact-based, against Republican Party, against conservatives and everything, and we just like sit there and just wait. Let's just wait until they come up with like a counter argument again. Why not just keep reminding people about how many right-wing acts of violence there have been? Why not? Why not do this? No one even talks about it. No one talks about what he's talking about right now. It flies totally on the radar because we just don't talk about it. And of course, the right's not going to bring it up.
Pittsburgh synagogue shooting, 7 wounded, 11 killed by a white supremacist anti-Semite. The murder of Blaze Bernstein, killed for being gay. The murder of Michonne Cooper Williams, a black woman stabbed to death by a white supremacist. The murders of Danny and Deanna Lorenzo, killed by neo-Nazis. The murder of Richard Collins III, who was stabbed to death by a neo-Nazi. The car-ramming attack at the Unite the Right rally, 28 wounded, 1 killed by a neo-Nazi white supremacist. The Portland train attack wreck, 1 wounded, 2 killed by a neo-Nazi white nationalist. The murder of Timothy Kaufman, stabbed to death by an anti-black racist. The train wreck movie shooting, 9 wounded, 2 killed by a neo-Nazi white supremacist. The Colorado Springs Planned Parenthood shooting, 9 wounded, 3 killed by an anti-abortion Christian extremist. The Charleston church shooting, 1 wounded, 9 killed by a white supremacist. Those are just some of the right-wing killings of the last decade in the United States alone. Several of the more recent killers on that list said that they were inspired by the Christchurch shooting in New Zealand, which resulted in 89 wounded and 51 killed by an anti-immigration white supremacist. That man and several of the more recent killers cited various right-wing influencers as inspiration, usually the ones fear-mongering about communism, cultural Marxism, and white replacement. There is no recent equivalent of this level of political murder on the left, and leftists could easily bring up these many anecdotes of deadly hate crimes over and over and over again. But why doesn't that happen? Because they aren't compelled by anecdotes, and they know that these murderers don't speak for the millions of conservatives.
I mean, honestly, they kind of do. They kind of fucking do, right? I see the way these right-wingers talk online. I see the way they talk in person. I know a lot of these people, right? I see how much they run interference for it, and they deflect for it, and they justify it. They kind of fucking do. They do.
Out there who are not murdering people. Bigotry is not compelling to them. To them, it's an unintelligent point to say that so-and-so was a right-winger who killed people, therefore you are somehow implicated in that. Unless, of course, you're an influencer cited by said murderer, in which case your very label as an influencer speaks to your role. You influenced it. People like Tim Pool, Alex Jones, Nick Fuentes, Ben Shapiro, Steven Crowder, Donald Trump, and many others like them have been cited by murderers as inspiration. Their common denominator is that they're all fear-mongers about leftists and immigrants. The tactic of right-wing influencers is to paint all Democrats and leftists as being on the verge of wanting to kill you, your entire family, or to replace you and to burn down entire cities across America.
They want
to
to do
them,
that.
collective blame.
So, to them, they think, oh, well, naturally, my opponent actually thinks the same thing, so it's us. We got to get them first before they get us. People have a tendency to think that other people think like them. Alright, let's fucking kill these people. In a video game, alright, in Star Wars The Old Republic. Genuinely, I wasn't talking about... I was actually talking about the video game. Am I missing those shots? Oh shoot, I got another guy to kill still. Yeah, it seems like I'm missing a lot of these shots. That's taking a lot for me to kill these enemies. My level's not high enough. They're level 29, I'm level 22.
Is compelling, which is why their killers are always motivated by bigotry. They're playing chess without any rules, and in the process they play on your fears, which is why the right dominates on social media and successfully pushes their narrative. If you are a right-leaning person, I'd imagine that you're thinking I'm just glossing over things like the 2020 riots, in which 19 people were killed and somewhere between $1 and $2 billion in damages was done. In actuality, glossing over that event would be to just dismiss every act of violence that summer as leftist, and nobody can honestly do that. It was a massive nationwide event. Around 20 million people participated in demonstrations.
He's not wrong, but this point is going to... I don't even bother making this point because it's way too high level for your average person, right? They think everybody in those protests and the riots are like, you know, left-wing liberal people. A lot of them are politically unaffiliated. A lot of the people in those riots were just, you know, minorities, black people who are fed up with the system but aren't particularly, like, you know, politically motivated outside of that particular one issue. They're not part of like a larger liberal or left-wing political, you know, project or anything. That's why you don't really see these people like activate at the polls or anything like that. And it is the truth, but it's incredibly hard to make that point, and it just makes you seem like you're biased to try to make that point. I would just grant it. Yeah, you know, yeah, there was you know, violence during that rally and the property damage and everything, but it's still just the amount of actual killing, right? It just doesn't come close. It doesn't. 19 versus what did he have on the last slide? 83.
Demonstrations across the country that summer, and it wasn't just leftists who had a problem with what happened to George Floyd, nor police brutality in general. At least in the moment before the narrative had time to spread its lies. 7,305 of the demonstrations, that's 96.3% of them, resulted in no violence and no damages. Human nature, and especially political propaganda, does not focus on widespread peaceful events. They focus on the violent 3.7%. Between May 26th and June 8th, there was arson, vandalism, and looting. There were also pretty egregious acts of unwarranted police brutality that escalated rather than de-escalated the unrest. That is done on purpose to justify normalizing using government force against the people. That's why...
I don't know if I buy that, to be honest with you. If you want to talk about like the ICE riots, I think ICE does, you know, try to... You know, the whole purpose behind ICE is to do that. But you're talking about like the 2020 or whatever the year it was, the George Floyd protest. I don't buy that. You know, maybe in some isolated situations, but broadly, I think the police were just trying to maintain order and try to avoid like violence and shit. It is worth pointing out though, because I didn't really make this point before. A lot of the people that were like looting and starting fires and everything had actually nothing to do with like the protests themselves. They were just kind of using it as an opportunity, right? Like within the chaos, these are people that would have looted and stole shit anyways, and they probably already do that. But it's like, oh shit, there's a big old like protest going on, the cops are preoccupied, shit, I'm gonna fucking take advantage of it, right? But they don't have any actual connection to like the protesters more broadly. I think that's true, and I think if you are actually being completely honest, if you are being honest, I think you should be able to grant that that's the case. But, you know, that said, I think that you have large protests like that, you have large organized protests. I think there is a degree of responsibility that protesters have to kind of mitigate damage like that, even if it's not specifically from them. You are creating conditions that are extremely hard for the authorities to maintain like regular police enforcement and everything, and so I do think that you have some culpability there. I do. Not 100% for sure. I don't know what it would be, right? And I don't know like all the measures that you could take to mitigate that or whatever, but I do think there's something to be said for that, to be fair. You know, I feel the same way about the recent riots, so like the Waymos on fire. The people who were surrounding those people who were setting the Waymos on fire, the question I have is, what are you doing there? What are you doing just like surrounding those people that are setting the Waymos on fire? Why aren't you disassociating yourself from that person? You know, if you want to claim that you're not a part of that, or, you know, that person doesn't represent you, then why are you so comfortable being around them and like hanging out around them, not telling them, hey, get the fuck out of here, fuck off? Right? It's because, frankly speaking, you are enabling, you are tolerating that behavior. I think that's fair to say.
unrest happened throughout Trump's first term, didn't happen under 4 years of Biden, and is now happening again under Trump's second term. It's not because leftists like Biden. They don't. It's because of how Trump responds to opposition and to peaceful protests. During the 2020 protests, 14,000 arrests were made. Some were unavoidable. For instance, a line of police would order people in the street to disperse west, only to be met with a line of police in the west ordering them to disperse east, effectively trapping them and making it impossible to comply. They would then arrest them for non-compliance. That's being done now in LA, by the way. They detain people until after curfew and then arrest them for violating curfew.
They're getting orders saying that we can't leave. It's not 8 o'clock. Do you hear that? They're saying nobody leaves. It's not the 8 o'clock curfew. They've trapped us in here. They've surrounded us all in here. It was a peaceful protest. No one got violent. They got violent. They're waiting until curfew to arrest us all. They let the press go. So my message to the press, look, they're moving in on us, y'all, for no reason. We're not doing anything. They trapped us in here. Maybe just stay here right now.
See, now this is a strong example if all this is legitimate, and that's fair, right? That is fair. That's fair criticism of the police there. I don't know that I'd apply that criticism to the, like, more broadly to the events that happened during that during the protests, because, you know, those particular police, yes, sure, doesn't mean that in all the situations across the country that's, you know, representative of how the police were acting. I don't believe that. I don't have any good reason to believe that, so I'm not gonna grant that. It wouldn't be fair for me to do that, and I don't think we need to do that. I think, you know, being dishonest, exaggerating things when that gets called out or when it gets caught out, it just kind of weakens your argument. So I don't believe in doing that.
We're under arrest. Under arrest for what? They said we're under arrest. For what? Okay. The city of Los Angeles. We're under arrest, you guys.
But of course, not everyone was innocent. I'm not trying to say that.
Okay,
during the summer of 2020, yes, many crimes were committed.
Yeah, I'm glad that he's
There's no doubt about that.
Fair about that.
But do the people who label all the crimes that summer as leftists go and check the political affiliations of anyone who was arrested or convicted? No, of course not. To them, it's obvious. But is that justifiable? It got to the point where any crime that occurred within a city that had a protest was automatically blamed on BLM, Democrats, leftists, or Antifa before any facts came out. Unlike the January 6th storming of the Capitol, the rioters in 2020 didn't all wear political merch indicating who they voted for. There were opportunistic looters who had nothing to do with any protest. The tragic murder of retired police captain David Dorn was used as a lightning rod against BLM. BLM murdered a black man, was the rhetoric being spread. What happened was that Dorn tried to stop some people from stealing televisions out of his friend's pawn shop. A man named Stefan Cannon was allegedly the murderer and subsequently convicted and sentenced to life in prison after a 3-day trial. Incidentally, he was convicted even though he was linked to no forensic evidence, no murder weapon, and no witnesses who saw him shoot anybody.
Mike, no forensic evidence, no murder weapon, and no witnesses saying they saw Stefan Cannon pull the trigger.
Assuming he did it, do we know anything about Stefan Cannon's politics? I can't find a single thing. News of his conviction subsumes everything else about him. Is stealing a television inherently leftist? No. But that would never stop propagandists from saying that BLM or Democrats or leftists or Antifa or insert political enemy killed David Dorn, turning his tragic murder into a juicy opportunity. And for a lot of people, sadly, a post from a popular social media influencer with 0 citations will be all the evidence they need to come to a conclusion. A man with an AK-47 fired 13 rounds at a police station in Minneapolis during the riots. Many people assumed he was a leftist. Was he? No. His name was Ivan Hunter Harrison, and he was a far-right extremist, a self-professed boogaloo boy, according to his Facebook account, and he drove up to Minnesota from Texas to cause trouble. I mean, you hear that 19 people were killed during the riots of 2020, and you may be tempted to assume that they were all innocent people killed by vicious leftists, but that's just not true. A lot of them were claimed to be self-defense. 2 of them were killed by Kyle Rittenhouse, for instance, and whether you think he did it in self-defense or not, it's still more complicated than some.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's actually fair. As far as the Kyle Rittenhouse thing goes, it sounds weird, but it can be the case that both sides of that interaction could have thought that their life was in danger. That's what makes, by the way, there's one of the arguments that I had against Kyle Rittenhouse even being there in the first place. When you have vigilantes in a scenario like that, wandering around with AR-15s, right? I know some people will say like, "Oh, you're afraid of AR-15s." No, but motherfucker, you're at a chaotic, event, and I see you wandering around with an AR. What the fuck are you doing out there with an AR-15? I'm supposed to just assume, when a bullet travels faster than my mind can process, and ask you a question and walk up to you and ask you who you are and get, verify who you are, and I'm just supposed to assume with my life, in potential risk? No. I don't know who the fuck you are. I don't know why you're walking around here with an AR-15. Right? So I can understand, and then with the first person that got killed, I don't remember the details, maybe that guy antagonized him, whatever, the first person gets killed, you see a guy running away from where you heard gunshots, and you see a guy laying dead on the street, you see a guy running away with an AR-15, you're supposed to assume that that person is not, a dangerous threat to everybody there? That's why he should have never fucking been there in the first place. And the police didn't do their fucking job that day. They didn't. Because a few of them saw Rittenhouse and his buddies wander around, but they thought, oh, these are conservative. They're on our side. They're good. Let them run around when there's a curfew in effect. Let them run around with guns. Let them run around with these protesters out here where they're on different sides of the faction, right? I think the police are partially responsible for what happened that night. I think it was gross negligence on their part to allow that to transpire. They should have had Rittenhouse and his friends leave the area. They let him wander around. It's fucking stupid to have him there in the first place.
Some sort of leftist murder spree. Likewise, many others of those 19 killed during the riots were also allegedly killed in self-defense, like Calvin Horton Jr., David McAddy, Tyler Newby, and James Scurlock. Barry Perkins was a protester who was run over by a FedEx truck and killed. David Patrick Underwood was a security guard at a federal building in California, killed during the riots by a man named Stephen Carrillo, another far-right extremist boogaloo boy who went there as an agent provocateur.
I'm lucky I survived this round.
He got life in prison. Jorge Gomez was shot and killed by police after they told protesters to disperse. None of the officers had body cameras, but security footage from a nearby building showed Gomez running away from the police when they shot him. Not to worry, the police investigated themselves and found that they did nothing wrong. The point I'm trying to make here is that the 19 deaths of the 2020 riots have a very different dynamic than an anti-immigrant extremist deliberately murdering a bunch of Hispanics at a Walmart in El Paso, Texas, which was the case for Patrick Wood Crucius, who shot 45 people there, more than all the 2020 riots combined, killing 22 of them. In his words, because of the, quote, Hispanic invasion and cultural and ethnic replacement, unquote. Gee, I wonder where he heard that. Well, we don't really have to wonder, because he was a massive Trump fan and parroted all of Trump's slogans on his social media accounts. He was naturally a registered Republican, yet how often have you heard the name of Patrick Crucius?
The issue is, in our country, we've normalized Republican extreme. We've normalized conservative extremism. We basically give them, we treat them like babies, or they're not responsible for the extremist rhetoric that they peddle, and it's so normalized, we're so used to it, we just let it slide, right? Republicans talk extremely extreme, extremely violent, extremely fucking dehumanizing and everything, and we just pretend like it's whatever. People hear them say that, and it doesn't even faze them. When you get to the point where it doesn't faze you anymore, you don't even realize how much you've normalized. When you're talking about all these immigrants and you're calling them an invasion, an infection, or infestation, you understand at that point you're simultaneously dehumanizing and also basically calling them an enemy faction that requires lethal force to put down. Not just people that are here illegally, broke some laws, you know, maybe you deport them, send back over. Some people that you need to defend yourself against with lethal force. That's what it means to have an invasion. An invasion is Russia and Ukraine right now. An invasion is not just some immigrants who are here working. But like, you guys are so used to that rhetoric, you think it's normal to refer to people like that as an invasion, and have all these influencers, prominent mainstream influencers, have all these Republican politicians and leaderships literally referring to people who live in our country and work, are not here, or I mean, they may be here illegally, but they're otherwise not criminals or anything, to refer to them as an invasion that requires lethal force to respond to. Oh, invasion doesn't mean you need lethal force. Okay, you're full of shit. You know what it means. But again, you've normalized that kind of rhetoric. So now you need to run interference for why you think it's normal to be talking that way about people. It's crazy. It's insane. And it's no surprise that the violence is so prominent on the right. We've normalized like them being able to get away with behaving and acting so violent.
How often have you recently heard about what he did?
Joking around with the other guys around them like that.
90 life sentences.
Shit is not normal.
And he's just one of the many right-wing terrorists, including the ones I listed earlier, that you just never ever hear about, because people on the left and people on the right are compelled by very different forms of rhetoric. If a leftist wanted to use right-wing style rhetoric and lean into the fear and bigotry in order to smear and implicate millions of people with crimes they had nothing to do with, then they would have an absolutely endless gold mine of blood, gore, death, and tears to work from, all generated by the far right.
And right now,
but they
honestly,
just don't do that.
Because that is the playing field.
It's against their ideals,
and it is
it's
extreme enough
uncompelling to them.
We need to
Hell, the only reason I'm mentioning it now is to address the lies. Because
they know, and if they think it doesn't apply to them, good. Force them to have to separate themselves from it. Or otherwise, they don't. And they play games around it, play games around not separating themselves from it, in which case it is fair to link you to it because you are in support of it. You are normalizing it, you are, you know, running interference for it. It should, if you really have a separation between you and it, you shouldn't have a problem separating yourself from it.
If the narrative was honest, I'd have no reason to speak on it. What's most ironic of all is that the rhetoric of fear and bigotry that is so successful for the right is the very same kind of rhetoric that inspires right-wing terrorism in the first place. Isn't that maddening? The very people who constantly lie about left-wing violence are the same ones who inspire the far more deadly right-wing violence. People are so often the very cause of the problems they themselves complain about. According to the Center for Strategic and International Studies, quote, far-right terrorism has significantly outpaced terrorism from other types of perpetrators, including from far-left networks and individuals inspired by the Islamic State and Al-Qaeda. Right-wing attacks and plots account for the majority of all terrorist incidents in the United States since 1994, and the total number of right-wing attacks and plots has grown significantly during the past 6 years. Right-wing extremists perpetrated 2/3 of the attacks and plots in the United States in 2019, and over 90% between January 1st and May 8th, 2020, unquote. It stops there, not because they didn't want to include the 2020 riots, but because it was published on June 17th of 2020 and likely written before the riots. So I sought more current statistics to see if there has been a shift. First finding the ADL, but I knew people on the right would likely consider that a biased source. So I sought something more neutral and found the National Institute of Justice, which does scientific research on domestic terrorism, has a study on right-wing terrorism specifically, and is an official website of the United States government. Unfortunately, I could not obtain those statistics for you from that site because that information was made unavailable in order to be in compliance with an executive order from President Trump himself.
Wow, would you look at that, right? And by the way, this story, I didn't even know about this. No one has talked about this. No one has talked about this. I mean, there might be some people, right? But who? Who, right? How fucking wild, extreme, and insane it is that the Trump administration is hiding information about political violence from the right, from the American people, while they're simultaneously running interference for it and encouraging it and pardoning people for it. And using, frankly speaking, using the law enforcement apparatus of the United States and the military to turn against its own people.
Isn't that interesting? So let's find other sources. Out of curiosity, what does the ADL say anyway? They say, quote, right-wing extremist terror incidents in the United States have been increasing since the mid-2000s, but the past 6 years have seen their sharpest rise yet. There were just 7 right-wing terror incidents in the period from 2005 to 2007. But by 2017 to 2019, there were 27, which increased to 40 in 2020 to 2022, unquote. This was published in 2023, and they say that from 2017 to 2022, there were 67 incidents of right-wing terrorism, resulting in 58 deaths. On to another source, according to the Statistical Research Department, quote, between 2014 and 2023, 76% of all domestic extremist-related killings in the United States were carried out by right-wing extremists. During this time period, 19% of extremist-related killings were carried out by perpetrators affiliated with domestic Islamist extremism, unquote. You know what else is very interesting? Besides making government statistics on right-wing terrorism unavailable because of an executive order, is that all these attacks dramatically increased right after Trump got involved in politics, with all of his divisive, fear-mongering rhetoric echoed by these killers. What about another source? Let's go beyond the United States. Let's go to the GTD, the Global Terrorism Database, which has info on over 200,000 terrorist attacks, including 88,000 bombings, 19,000 assassinations, and 11,000 kidnappings, all since 1970. What does that worldwide wealth of information tell us? Well, it tells us that attacks by Islamist extremists are 131% more likely to result in fatalities than attacks by right-wing extremists. And attacks by left-wing extremists are 45% less likely to result in fatalities than attacks by right-wing extremists.
By the way, when you talk about Islamic extremism, that is right-wing, okay? It's a different flavor of right-wing. These two right-wing groups hate each other, but Islamic extremists, they're not progressive, they're not liberal. They are conservative. They're conservative, but they're Islamic conservatives instead of Christian conservatives.
So the left is by far the least deadly of the ideologies, at least since 1970. This will confuse some of the more ignorant right-wingers because they consider Islam to be aligned with the left, which is absurdly false. Moderate Muslims could be leftists, just like moderate Christians can be as well. But if you're killing people, you're not moderate. Islamic extremists are very patriarchal. They're against women's rights. They're very much against LGBT people. They're religious fundamentalists, and they mix religion with government. They resemble the far right significantly more than the far left. So why do some right-wingers mistake them as left? Because leftists in the West tend to stand up for minorities, and Muslims are a minority in the West. We in the West also have the benefit of not being classified as terrorists when our governments bomb Muslims, even when most of the casualties are civilian, or when the strikes are done with the specific intent to demoralize and intimidate the very definition of terrorism. Trump said
I don't know about all that.
That he left orders that if Iranian officials had him assassinated, Iran is to be completely leveled until there's nothing left.
Okay. I mean, when he's talking about I mean that's the issue, right? There's basically like basic establishment American politics, and there's like Trump stuff. We're talking about like Trump in charge. Yeah, I mean extreme, or not extreme like bad, but like how do I put it? Points like that are not like moderate, like a moderate, like oh kind of a little bit, kind of just like no, the current administration is engaged in terrorism kind of thing. Like that's going to apply probably to the Trump administration. Probably not really apply to your average standard American political establishment. And I know that's like a controversial thing to say, but you know, whether you agree or disagree with like established American politics, majority of the time they're not engaged in those kind of behaviors. They usually do follow things like the Geneva Convention. You have to look for isolated examples. Usually those people are operating covertly, or they're kind of like the prison in Abu Ghraib, like they're operating despite what the standards are for Americans. So they're like soldiers who are behaving in ways that aren't, you know, the standard. But when it's under Trump, Trump does encourage that kind of behavior. He normalizes it, and the Republican Party normalizes acting like extremist terrorists.
That would be a terrible thing for them to do. Not because of me. If they did that, they would be obliterated. That'd be the end. I've left instructions.
And people forget about this, but when he was running for office, he literally talked about it's not enough to go after the terrorists, we have to go after their families too, right? You understand that in America we have this concept, which is you're not guilty for the sins of your father, you're not guilty by association, right? Donald Trump said, no, we should kill their families too. Not, by the way, right, if he would have said like, oh, if their families are also terrorists, that's one thing, right? Oh yeah, they're terrorists, okay, cool. But no, we're just gonna kill their family just because they're related to a terrorist. Republicans normalize that kind of shit, and frankly speaking, a lot of you normalize Republicans normalizing that kind of shit. That's insane. Alright, let's get the fuck out of here. I've been getting my ass kicked over here.
If they do it, they get obliterated. There won't be anything left.
That's using one death to justify 90 million deaths. An obvious extreme absurdity. Yet how often have you heard his base talk about it or object to it? Who's really more violent and more accepting of widespread violence here? Between the right and the left, the stats don't lie. Left-wing extremists are the least likely to kill you. That will seem absurd to many right-wingers because they are ideologically captured by the narrative, just like Elon Musk is. It's all about what they focus on and what they ignore. For
It's
instance,
a long video, but I said this before. I think I'm gonna, after I turn it in this mission, I think I'm gonna cut it short here. So we'll pick up with him later on. So we're in the section, the statistics on violence. Elon Musk's ignorance would be the next one. We'll probably stop right here before we get to the next section. And we'll pick it up at a later time.
There's about 20,000 murders in the United States per year. You never hear about the vast majority of those murders. But I bet you have heard about Laken Riley, for instance.
You never shut the
That's
fuck up
because
about
her murder was used to push a narrative that a significant portion of those 20,000 Americans killed per year are being killed in an invasion by illegal immigrants, so construed as a literal invasion by foreign countries that Trump invoked the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to circumvent the Constitution, the same act that was used to put Japanese American citizens in internment camps during World War II. If you were Japanese, they could put your entire life on hold and lock you up. Likewise, now, if you're Hispanic, agents in plain clothes and masks can just pick you up and disappear you, citizen or not. Doesn't matter. It's happening. If you're an Arab woman who writes an op-ed saying that the United States should cut ties with Israel, agents in plain clothes can take you off the sidewalk near your home in Boston and send you to a camp in Louisiana against judges' orders. That happened. First, Fourth, Fifth, Eighth, and 14th Amendments all be damned. After all, we're being invaded, and you have much to fear. So sacrifice your freedom and your rights and suspend the Constitution. Is that patriotic? What is worth this precedent of giving up your...
Yeah, it's so weird because I mean, I don't even know if I grant this, but like maybe you can make the case that in some super extreme event we need to suspend certain, processes, whatever. I don't know if I buy that. I'm just saying we are nowhere even remotely in the same universe of closeness to that, right? The people who are willing to dive headfirst into authoritarianism and letting Trump just do whatever the fuck he wants, right? Over what? What it's told me is how cheap the patriotism is of people who claim it, and how cheap it is for them to give up the freedoms of this country for what? Because a lot of people made the argument, oh, Trump administration, we had good tax cuts, right? Oh, you got $50 back on your taxes? That's what the United States is worth to you? That's what the Constitution is worth to you? That's what our rights, that's what our freedoms, that's what our security as a people is worth to you? $50 fucking dollars? God damn, you're fucking cheap.
Rumors are filling the hollow frequencies of a daring robbery at our old estate. You've set a lot of tongues wagging.
House Bayless is missing a datapad from their new library.
I'll let my dear sister have the honors. Never could decipher that blasted thing.
It's a simple code, woven through the genealogical entries. You just have to assemble the letters correctly, Len.
I can't wait to see what's inside.
I hope it isn't a huge explosion. That would be anticlimactic.
According to this, we must pry open the droid's ventral servomotor housing and disable its lateral conduits. The holochip is hidden within a false power storage unit behind a detonite charge, entering the disarm code. I've got it! After all these centuries, we finally have our proof. The information on this holochip proves House Tehran is owed a considerable number of credits. When the other families hear of this, we will reclaim our status among the nobility.
I guess congratulations are in order.
Please, there's no need. We're just happy to be rich.
Then take this data and have it authenticated by the Royal Council. I'll see to our benefactor's payment.
I'm sure you will, dear sister.
What a fucking weirdo.
I suppose you'll be leaving soon. You don't seem like a man who stays in one place for long.
Oh good, was that the end of the
always
Alderaan
have time
missions?
for a gorgeous lady.
There's a charming crudeness to your romantic gestures I
Oh no, that
can't
was
help
delivery
admiring.
1.
One advantage to being an honored guest at House Organa is access to their finest food and drink. I can arrange a special meal for the two of us. We'll eat and talk about your adventures.
What happens when I run out of stories?
Why don't we start a conversation and see where things lead? Follow me to the parlor. We'll pour ourselves a drink while we wait for the food. Aren't you glad you decided to stay?
Why don't you leave all this behind, Sidonia?
That's more tempting than you know. But my place is here.
I didn't mean to say that. He's not the type. He's the type
I promised myself a long time ago I would live my life without any regrets.
to sample the local
Thank you for
cuisine
letting me
and then
keep
dash, so to speak.
Any other promises I can help you keep?
Thank you, but no. This datapad contains your payment for delivering the droid. It's the schematic for a powerful anti-radiation shield invented by House SWTOR. The shield will protect your starship from lethal cosmic rays. You should give the datapad to your business partner, Risha.
What's she gonna do with it?
Build the shield, I believe. I assumed you knew all this. I also have your reward for recovering our family's heirlooms. I'm especially grateful for those. You risked your life for House SWTOR, and we'll never forget that. Farewell.
Oh really? Is that? Oh, never mind.
Your constitutional rights. Once you give them up, they're very difficult to get back.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing too, is Republicans used to make that argument so often, right? Oh, the thing about giving up your rights is that once you give them up, they're hard to get back. And now they're so easily willing to give it up. But to be honest with you, this doesn't actually surprise me. Right? I'm just making the point that their rhetoric has been just paper-thin, shallow false the entire time. The thing about conservatism is it's an ideology of following. It's an ideology of conformity. So the reality is that most people that repeat like their ideological precepts, they're really only just repeating what other conservatives had basically kind of impressed upon them to say, but they don't actually fully understand or fully feel within their heart and soul. And so when you see them flip-flop and give up on positions so easily, it shouldn't actually be that surprising to you. They really only said those things because it was part of their quote-unquote tradition to do so. And once they've gotten like, new, whatever the new kind of socially acceptable position is among the group that that they're conformed to, they'll switch it up for them. Because again, to reiterate, and I cannot stress this enough, conservatism is an ideology of conformity. They celebrate it, in fact. I mean, if you word it that way, they'll get a little bit offended by it because they know that the implication is negative. But the reality is that they love conformity. They love being normal. They hate snowflakes. They hate people who are different than them, right? They, think that, why do you got to be different? Why do you got to do different things? Why can't you, be proud of your country and wave the flag and do this and that? And I remember when people used to be like this and everybody used to be like that, right? And they love conformity. The reality is, from a psychological perspective, conformity is a safety blanket. It makes them comfortable. To them, when everybody's conforming to something, they know what the play is. They understand what the rules are. It's not complicated. It's very black and white, and they understand how they're supposed to behave, what they're supposed to do, what the role is of them and everybody else in society. I think from a deep-seated psychological position, there is, if you study the conservative mind, their amygdala is larger. They have a larger fear center in their brain. It makes them more comfortable to think that the rest of society is like nice, neat, orderly, very simple, and everybody's kind of like the same, so you know what to expect, and everybody agrees and conforms to the same thing. Personally, I think it's fucking boring and lame and like gayer than gay people, okay? As much as conservatives hate gay people, conservatives are some of the gayest motherfuckers on the planet.
What are you so afraid of?
Oh, wear a cowboy hat, wear bedazzled jeans, wear your fucking bootcut shit, wear these big fucking gaudy fucking boots on your shoes. No, this shit looks fucking stupid. The only reason that you wear it is because everybody else around you told you that that's what America is. The Wild West, which didn't even exist at the founding of the country, which only existed at a certain time period. But why? Why do they all look and dress like that? Why do we pretend that that shit looks cool when it doesn't look goofy as fuck? Because it really does look goofy as fuck. Let's keep it real. Let's keep it a $1.50. Okay, some of these look dapper. Okay, but like your average like cowboy, God, I'm gonna get like fashion shit. Let's do this. This is fucking goofy. This shit is fucking goofy. Alright? You're not living in the Wild West. You're not a fucking cowboy. This shit looks funny, frankly speaking. It had utility out on the plains when you needed to shield yourself from a lot of sunlight. But it just looks like you got a giant fucking wing on your head. It looks like you put a spoiler on your fucking head. Right? You know what a spoiler is, right? Like the wing in the back of a car. A spoiler. Right? It looks like this. It looks like you got this on your head. What are you doing? You don't need that. Frankly speaking, like I know some people are gonna pretend like this shit is cool and everything. This shit does not look cool. Your shirt is like longer than it should be when you have like your shirt tucked in, the undershirt tucked in this far up. Your shit looks like it's like riding up your ass. This belt looks fucking giant and gaudy. Color sense is super basic and kind of boring and everything. Look at this. Like, what are you doing? None of this looks cool. None of this looks, you know, even this guy, right? They all want to fucking pretend. None of this shit is actually fucking, this shit doesn't actually look cool. You're doing it because you're conforming.
That you're willing to turn America into a police state. Well, according to U.S. Customs and Border Protection, 29 people were killed in homicides or manslaughters by illegal immigrants in 2024. That's
dramatic. Perfect. That wasn't too bad, was it?
That Sidonia was really something.
Is she your type, Captain? Interesting. She always seemed a little cold-hearted to me. Your next delivery is to take that head in the jar to a sniveling little stuffed shirt named Pima Ahaf. Pima is at House Alda's estate. You'll have to sneak through some tough battle zones to get there.
What else do you know?
They're Alderaan's original rulers. They've lost most of their political power, but none of their snootiness.
Can't wait to ditch that creepy head. I swear its eyes follow me around the cargo hold.
This is one delivery I recommend keeping covered. Let's not upset the locals any more than we need to. Good luck, Captain.
Well, alright. I'm gonna call it a day for this game at this point. I'll finish up this chapter of the video and then I'm gonna cut the stream. You know, as I kind of pointed out on my channel and on the Reddit, I do have Andor coming. So right after I get off of this, I'm gonna relax and watch the first episode, record that, and then I intend to have episode 1 and 2. I think that's the model I'm gonna go for. It's kind of like giving someone it's like being a drug dealer and giving someone you know, that first free bump of cocaine, you know, just to get them addicted. I think with shows I'm probably gonna release the first 2 episodes first, just kind of get you hooked in, right? And you're like, oh shit, I saw episode 1, episode 2, I'm hooked in now. But now I gotta wait a week for episode 3, and then I'll make you wait for the rest of the week. So I'm gonna make you guys wait, okay? Gotta build up the anticipation. Gotta stretch it out a little bit. Also gives me time to edit. Imagine trying to edit, what it would be, 12 episodes, I think, in Andor? 12 hours of content? And you're not just editing 12 hours of content, you're editing 12 hours of you watching, plus 12 hours of the video that you also have to edit too at the same time. So you're really editing like 24 hours of content, unless right? I have an idea that maybe I can stream both through or record both through OBS, and then that way when I cut it, and I like that idea too because I don't have to synchronize two different videos. I can have one video and my reaction to Andor will be synchronized with whatever I'm watching on Andor at the same time. But there's some kinks got to work out there. I've had to work out the kinks with the gaming stream. I haven't worked out the kinks with the React video streams yet, so we'll see how that goes. But anyways,
it's 29 too many, of course. I'm wondering though.
There are 29 murders, right? That's enough for us to give up our freedom to throw ourselves into a police state. How many gun deaths were there in 2019? $10,258, and yet Republicans think that we should have no conversation about any regulation. Not taking away the Second Amendment, not suspending the Second Amendment, but no regulation on guns whatsoever. Okay, 10,258, but there was 29 murders by immigrants, and that justifies all of this police state shit. It justifies a budget for ICE that is larger than most countries' military budgets. Make that make sense to me. How many mass shooting deaths in 2019? $41 incidents. So there are 41. Jesus Christ. There are 49 incidents of mass killings. Okay, that's not 41 dead. That's 49 incidents. With 211 deaths. 211 deaths. Republicans are not willing to budge at all whatsoever on their gun rights. But 29 killings by illegal immigrants, and they're willing to suspend habeas corpus, suspend due process, have the martial law, right? Make that make sense. Make that make sense to me. Let's see. What's another one? Oh, abortion related deaths in 2019. These deaths followed legal abortions. The CDOs reported that the national case fatality rate for legal induced abortions. Oh, no, it's not like at 2019 because some of those laws went into effect this year. 2024. Okay, so there's 5. I mean, there's not a lot of them, but let's see, deaths associated with anti-abortion bans. How many? Okay. Researchers estimate 22,180 more live births. Okay, those are, fetuses that would have been aborted, but now they're, born babies. 22,000. But the figure I'm really looking for. Okay, well, this isn't actually the figure I'm looking for, but 478 more infant deaths than expected across 14 states. So 478, and yet they're completely okay with all their stringent anti-abortion bans, but 29 deaths by illegal immigrants, they're ready to fucking blow up the Constitution. Make that make sense to me. The number I was really looking for was actually how many mothers have died as a result of these anti-abortion bans. In the first year, estimated pregnancy-related deaths would increase additional 49 deaths. So, I mean, it doesn't really make sense.
Why there's such disproportionate fear and outrage for those
because
29,
the media
and usually only a few
consume.
of those 29 repeated in the rhetoric, compared to the other 19,971 killed by native-born American citizens. Could it be because it's a disingenuous talking point designed to stoke fear and outrage?
Yep.
Looks like it.
Yep.
Their so-called invasion would have to kill 690 times more people just to equal the number of Americans killed by Americans. And such fear-mongering has ironically inspired even more killings by anti-immigrant white nationalist extremists. Incidentally, with 20,000 Americans murdered per year, that's a rate of around 7.5 per capita. Our far more liberal neighbors up north in Canada have around 2 homicides per capita compared to our 7.5. That's around 750 homicides per year compared to our 20,000. A lot of this puts Elon Musk's...
Those per capita numbers weren't really making sense to me. 2 per capita. That can't make sense. I don't think he's citing this correctly. What can he mean when he says this? 2 per capita. Because per capita means per person of the population. That means we're killing 2 times more people than there are people in the United States. Or 7, when he said 7 per capita, that'd be 7 times as many people actually live in the United States. So what does he actually mean when he says this? I'm assuming that he means something like 2%, like 2% per capita, so 0.02 per capita, and then 0.07 per capita. That would make sense to me because that would be 2 out of every 100 or 7 out of every 100. Or probably more realistic, because usually I feel like these statistics are reported in per 1,000, so 2 per 1,000, which seems to be a more realistic number because you've had 2 out of every 100 people dying from homicide. That's a very, very high number. Right? So let me Google this actually. Homicide rate, U.S. homicide rate, U.S. 6.3 per 100,000. This is actually what he's probably saying. So this is even higher than the difference in scale is even higher than I thought. So it's not even 6%, it's 0.00 hold on. 0.006%. Either way, you get the idea. It's a very, very small number.
Ignorant statements into perspective, doesn't it? Musk is ideologically captured. Has he studied the statistics?
So is that question always, is it malice or is it incompetence? And there's that Hanlon's razor, never attribute to malice what can be described with incompetence. A lot of people think like, oh, Elon Musk is just stupid. I think he is probably in a lot of ways kind of dumb, right? Let's say every area of his life he's dumb. I think he's pretty smart when it comes to his like business and some of the engineering things he's involved in. I don't think that means that he understands all of the intricate nuances of the engineering projects, but that's not really what you would expect for the CEO of the company, right? That said, when it comes to politics, his takes tend to sound really fucking stupid. But the question is he actually that dumb, or does he know that he's lying, but he's lying because he has some agenda to push? And I think it's more the latter than
all
the
the
former.
Events themselves? Obviously not.
I don't think he's examined the events, but I also think he just doesn't care. I think he has a political mission that he's trying to push, which is like kind of like this weird white supremacist, white nationalist. We need to boost the number of white people and make sure that white people stay in charge of the country. I think that's actually his ideology. And so I think he's just kind of saying and doing whatever he thinks he needs to do to build up the political capital to make that happen. I think he actually thinks that, white people are like genetically superior or whatever. I don't think there's different nuances and flavors to white nationalism, as weird as it sounds, but his isn't the kind, I don't believe his is the kind of white nationalism wants to actually literally exterminate minorities. I think he just wants, his version is that he believes that white people have like this, like chosen by God, chosen by the universe, whatever the fuck you want to call it, like destiny that they must manifest, where they're supposed to be in charge, be in control, be the leaders, and the rest of the minority groups are like workers for that project. And he wants to make sure that whites stay the dominant force because he believes that they're better. Part of the reason I say this, by the way, is it's very consistent with that particular flavor of white supremacist, white nationalism that I've encountered online. Like I've had arguments with people who, you know, because they're anonymous on 4chan or something, they're very clear about what they think and they're not trying to hide it. So that like they've laid out to me what their ideology is, right? And this is their ideology. Again, I've argued with different ones. There's different flavors, but this is one of the particular flavors where they believe like the different races have their different roles to play. I think they view like Asians as like little mini calculators, like they don't have the creativity, they don't have the leadership, but we could use them as pencil pushers to do like the mundane, tedious calculations. This is how they think. Okay, this is not me saying it. They look at black people as, okay, they're like you know, physically strong or whatever. We use them as like slave, maybe not even literal slave labor, right? But they'll see them as just like manual labor or same thing. They view it in the same way with like Mexicans and Latinos. With Indians, they see them maybe potentially as like you know, engineers that they can use. But they don't think that engineers are smart enough to be like the lead engineers or the creative engineers, the ones developing new technology, but basically the ones that are just like, here's existing technology, here you guys go, like do the tedious work, kind of like the Asians, right? But then they see themselves as like the dominant leadership class, whatever you want to call it, right? And I think Elon subscribes to that vision, that version of white nationalism, white supremacism. And you know, if you look at the beginning of the Trump admin, he was talking about, oh, actually, we do need H-1Bs. Him and Ramaswamy were pushing that, and he got dumpstered on by the rest of the Republican right, is because that is consistent with that model that I'm talking about. He doesn't literally want to exterminate non-whites. He doesn't want to literally, you know, purge them out of the country, deport all of them out of the country. He sees them as tools. He sees them as like an underclass for him to use.
He blames it on legacy media.
Oh,
but you can learn all of this without.
We've gone to the next chapter. Anyways, we're gonna cut it off right here. We'll follow up next time. We're on basically Elon Musk's delusion. Okay. Next time on Dragon Ball.